In the city where things are happening, maybe not that you would have thought, but definitely in the ALGS world. It's been London, the mecca so far of our esport, but we transition to Birmingham to end the day and end the year of our championship. And we will crown someone as an eventual winner on Sunday, but first, there is an entire group stage and then a bracket stage coming up before we get there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Resorts World Arena. We are live and we are here ready for our final set of the day. Our series have gone twofold so far, and we are here with the trifecta, but of course that means we've got to get three people on the desk that know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, we can only find two. I'm here alongside Onset and Gaskin. They're going to carry me through this one. Is that for you? Was that a crowd chant for Onset?
I hope so.
Onset and Gaskin,
so.
my God.
Don't know what to do with that.
Some popular blokes. Can you just react to that for a second?
Thanks.
It's great to have you guys here. Obviously, we've been watching today, Dan, though, electric atmosphere in here. Obviously, the week's still warming up, and obviously the weekend will continue to bring more fans and more excitement into the arena as we head towards the bracket stage, but one more series to go.
Yeah, this is crunch time now. We see two groups that have already concluded their games and they have finished the points total they can find, but now we're going to have two more groups that are trying to catch them up. This is the most exciting part of the day for me because I get to start doing my mathematics, trying to work out those averages, trying to work out where people are going to be aiming for. And we've said around kind of 95 points might be able to do it. I think at the moment 102 guarantees you, but that will go down as we see the points gathered by these teams.
Well, when it comes to gathering points, some teams have been a little ahead of the curve so far. We'll talk about what that means, but let's show you a little bit about what happened earlier on in the second set of the day. Obviously, we've had a long match series going on that has included a bunch of teams popping off, Mark, but really for me the story has been APAC. They have performed so well over the course of these last 2 days, and they are positioning themselves to be in the winners finals.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I think that Moist had a very, very good run, but I think we need to talk about the team you can see on your screen right now. That's going to be Blackhand, and Strafing Flame with an incredible interview to close out the set as well. Really kind of gave us an insight what it's like to not just be in his shoes as the IGL, the leader, but also what he has to go through in those games and what he knows he has to work on if they want to have success. But Moist Esports also, I will say, providing us with the clip of the tournament, arguably the clip of the year with a 360 no-scope. It was ridiculous. You should have heard us in the green room. Everyone popped off, understandably so.
It's been one of the best things to see, Dan. Watch this clip right here. Your reaction to this, I mean, all of us, we were going wild.
Yeah, it's just one of those that I think I saw like celebrities tweeting about it, or sorry, Xing about it on social media, because it was just one of those that popped off. And it just will build confidence for this Moist squad. And I think that Moist are going to be a team we have to look out for as we move forward in this tournament.
It really does shift the combo as to if we're expecting APAC to, in the winners finals and in the finals, continue to have this level of domination. We've seen EMEA teams affected by effects such as Alliance joining a little bit late, maybe to a late start as well. Ascend, though, had a really nice earlier start to the day. It's almost as if North America, where are you right now? We're going to have a chance to answer that question coming up in this final series of the day. But as it stood over our last six, we have Blackhand taking a commanding lead. It looks like what Dreamfire did earlier on yesterday in their first set. 73 points. Riddle Order coming right behind them from APAC North, Moist Esports, APAC South, and 100 Thieves staying in there, which have quietly kept into a very consistent position. And overall, if you look at the standings, you'll see right here that we've got a myriad of representation. Mark, Blackhand obviously at the top, and Dan, look at this. I mean, everyone seems to have a go, even South America, and Startified Esports there in seventh.
And I'm pretty confident those 10 teams are into the winners bracket with the points total that they find themselves on. Wow. So at the moment, I think that they're guaranteed. Singularity and NRG should be, but then this is where it starts to get interesting. Jailing's on 98, 100 Thieves on 97. Could be okay, but Pioneers at 91. I feel like this is where it starts to get very dicey, and a lot of these teams that are playing in this next series are going to be aiming for that points total.
Riddle Order have to perform as well. We know they have the ability to do so, but only 74 points. Obviously, this is a big chance. And when you look at the back half of this, Mark, what stands out to you as the teams in that bottom 20 that need to perform to get there? Maybe you would be expecting to be in the winners, but might not be able to do it.
I mean, two teams that are in the top 10 of our finals at the Split 2 playoffs are down at the bottom of the leaderboards at the moment. You've got Oxygen Esports, a lot of maybe pressure after the expectation level has been risen for them over the last couple of events, but FaZe as well. I mean, a lot of the time. I haven't seen FaZe involved in end games. I've seen them getting caught on their rotates. It doesn't quite seem to be coming together for them at the moment, but you know, there's opportunities ahead of them to put that right.
One of the more difficult things is when a team isn't winning, they don't get that interview at the end. So you kind of have to wait to see what they're thinking, what is going wrong. Maybe we talk about in between games or at the hotel later on. But of course, we are looking for several squads to answer the questions we might have of them. Best way to answer them, though, is through your gameplay. And speaking of who is about to play, let's take a look at the teams participating in our final set of the day. And when it comes to it, I mean, to me, A and C have so many big names, so many stories around them. From It's Timmy, you look at Designful, Enemy, from Dojo. They've been performing well, all the way to the TSMs, the Optics, which I think have been phenomenal, and Disguised as well, our two LCQ teams.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep an eye on World's Edge especially is we've seen this long-standing contest going down between Alliance and Dojo.
Yes.
And with the position that both these teams are actually in at the moment, it doesn't really favor either of the teams to know that they're going into a game, and if it's a hot contest, that they'll come out of it with 0, because both of them at the moment are kind of on the outside looking into that top 20. So I think for both of them, it's either maybe we contest game 1, maybe we contest game 2, but I don't think you can afford to have 3 games in a row where you might lose the contest and come out with it 0 points.
Both teams desperately need it. In fact, you just mentioned FaZe. That is what happened to them earlier on. A question, though, that cannot be avoided is 2 of the top teams going head-to-head again for our last group stage match. Of course, it's TSM. And it is Dark Zero. Dark Zero recently winning our Split 2 playoffs in London. TSM taking the very first one in February. But Dark Zero, you have to say, they have put together not only a couple of unbelievable wins, but some surprisingly inspiring performances in the way that they have been able to battle people's expectations and keep proving that they are better than we think. In fact, we've had a chance to take a look at Dark Zero's story in a very cool way.
The back-to-back champions.
Match point specialists!
Dark Zero, a team representing APAC South in year 2 of the ALGS, shocked the world, winning both the Split 2 playoffs and the ALGS championship. And yet, their ambitions were still unsatisfied.
Moving to NA just improved our gameplay overall. We're definitely a better team than we once were last year.
And in their first split in NA, the region lived up to that challenge as DZ struggled and many questioned if they had made the right decision. Near the end of the split, things looked dire, but then in the regional finals, they narrowly squeaked into LAN qualification.
Yeah, we're just not very used to the rotations of all NA teams, that we've only played against the ones who had been to LANs.
But the split was behind them. All that mattered now was LAN, and despite having to go through the loser's bracket, they made it to the finals lobby. Dark Zero had the chance to do the unthinkable. The three-peat to cement themselves as a dynasty and the greatest team of all time.
The vibes were good, but we had to adjust to a whole new character comp.
Just adjusting to the characters, the fit wasn't very good.
We didn't do too well when we first moved.
Not only did DZ finish in a somewhat disappointing 13th place,
TSM up in the skies! House comes down from the heavens! London belongs to TSM!
but their rivals, TSM, took home the trophy. Heading into Split 2, the conversation was no longer about the dominance of Dark Zero, but they began the split strong, showing they had begun to adjust to the style of play in North America, and then a bombshell dropped. Sharky, a longtime member of the team, retired.
I was just pretty scuffed looking for a third. We had very minimal time to pick Rambo and then to pick Zyno. The fundamentals he showed was the main decision behind it.
When I joined DC, it was a little nerve-wracking, first joining the team.
Although Zyno was such a new addition to the team with little turnaround time before the regional finals, the results were instant.
Dark Zero are gonna do it! Dark Zero are gonna win it again! The match point specialist surely see this one out, and they do!
But finally, the Split 2 playoffs have arrived. Dark Zero's chance to redeem themselves on the international stage is here. During their run to the finals lobby, they went under the radar as TSM and Alliance stole the headlines. But all of that changed very quickly.
It would be a mesmerizing play if he could pull this off, but Jen's had time now to pop that battery, send in Zynu, send in Jen Burden, send the victory screen towards Dark Zero.
It only took Dark Zero 3 games to reach match point. They came close to closing it out immediately after in Game 4, but ended up finally sealing the deal and winning their 3rd LAN title in the last 4 attempts. The Dark Zero dynasty was now cemented in the history books forever. Zero once again proved to be arguably the greatest IGL in history. Jen Burton answered the doubters who believed he had fallen off since moving to North America. and the rookie Zainu won a LAN in his first ever split of Pro League. And yet, the job is not finished. In year 3 of the ALGS, both Dark Zero and TSM have won a LAN, and all time they are now tied at 3 apiece.
Yes, everyone hyping up TSM obviously because the CEO, but we are definitely the favorites, I would say, for this tournament. I don't like being the favorite, I like being the underdog. Like, it adds to the story, you know? But yeah, we're definitely the favorites.
I think it's just us and TSM, basically no one else, so like either or. Okay, well, we're gonna win.
But with our eyes now set on the championship,
Are Dark Zero the favorites to win it all and claim the title as the greatest team of all time?
A heavy weight to carry no matter who you are, the greatest team of all time. Could they do it? Certainly, if they win here in Birmingham, we would have to start having that conversation. But as you can see from Zero and the rest of the team, they feel pretty confident they'll be able to lift the trophy. One person who's been following their journey and now has been following us somehow to Birmingham, UK, that you may not expect, was in the stands, helping to produce, create, narrate, and overall help us with catching these storylines and making sure to fill out the important moments that happen behind the scenes with these players. And it is none other than Jayhawk, who is joining us now as a surprise guest on the desk. Jayhawk, how are you feeling, man? Welcome to Birmingham, and it's great to have you working with us behind the scenes and telling these stories that are so important to educate our fans about the journeys these players go through.
It's a surreal experience, honestly. I've been on the other side of the screen so many times, watching LAN, seeing you guys talk about all these teams, watching these moments, and actually getting to be here in person, meet all the players, you know, and actually experience the crowd and the atmosphere, the Dreamfire fans. It's a blast. What's been the one thing that you feel separates being at LAN versus doing it? Because you make so much content on YouTube that people consume. We've consumed it in our backstage as well, prepping for some of the regions that we don't get a chance to see as much. What's the big difference that you've experienced so far being here actually in person? Just the sense of community. Like, you get to meet so many fans of teams from around the world. You get to see the players at the meet and greets and just walking around the stadium, the coaches, the different orgs, and the people behind the scenes, you guys, the talent here. The community that you get to experience being here in person, it's like nothing else. Yeah, and Mark and Dan, they can attest. We've been using a lot of the not only narration for some of the videos that people have seen and may not be seeing very, very soon, but also just the fact that these stories are really what make our esport. And I'm curious to you, if this story in particular, Dark Zero TSM, you feel that there's some type of I don't know, change in what the narrative might be? Do you think there's something surprising that people aren't expecting? Maybe TSM coming out stronger than some might think? Or do you think, you know, Dark Zero, with their confidence, really deserve it and they are going to hoist that trophy this time around? Well, the interesting part about this rivalry is that I think a lot of people, when they see these teams constantly winning, you watch from their perspective, it seems so easy. They just walk into the zone, and it seems like, well, they got lucky. They got a circle that was near them. Something just was blessed to them, and they just happened to win. But when you really delve into their gameplay and the fact that only 2 teams have been able to win a LAN, you realize that there's something unique about these 2 teams, and it's really hard to not expect them to do it again here at Champs. Yeah. And so I don't know who wins between these 2. I feel like there's an added motivation for TSM, having seen Dark Zero tie it up last time. But at the same time, I know that Zero, he is a man on a mission. Jen Burton is ready to win, and Zainu, this kid has never lost on match point. Well, that's a hell of a record. He's only played once, but it is an incredible record to see that as well. And Jayhawk, I'm sure either way, great stories will unfold, whether Dark Zero or TSM win this time around. They may get a title temporarily, but just like in Split 1, or it was all TSM, Dark Zero, they have taken it back and have set us up for a wonderful champs. Thank you so much. We hope to see you throughout the event and throughout maybe the broadcast yet again. But in terms of getting to the games, which are almost underway, we've got to lean in with our predictions. And of course, the talent we've been talking behind the scenes, who we think is going to do well in this one. A lot of Optic Gamings, actually. Spider Tip with a Realize, Dark Zero with Genome, who you know, I have to always joke with is now North America's pride, because they, you know, they switch regions. So he doesn't like that joke.
I'm not sure we like that joke in the end either.
I'm not sure Mark likes that joke. Dan doesn't like it either.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, Jayhawk likes it, okay? And so we've got that first one. I want to go to the final page as well. That way we can kind of digest this completely, because I think, Jayhawk, you've got a pick also. Why don't you talk to us about the pick? Oxygen Esports. Talk to me about them.
Yeah, Oxygen Esports is a team that, as we saw in the last Split 2 playoffs, they're a dominant force. We've seen them actually prove it on LAN. There was a big question mark going into the last Split 2 playoffs. Can they actually do it? They did it. They handled the pressure. Now the pressure's here again in a way they haven't experienced it before. But they've been a team this entire year. In Apex, there's a lot of roster shifts. They didn't choose to do that despite in Split 1 only finishing in 16th in North America. When you look at the stats of what they've done so far, they are struggling in 2 areas, kills and on Stormpoint. And that is what Oxygen thrives at. They were dominant on Stormpoint in the Split 2 playoffs, and obviously they're one of the best fighting teams in the world. And so I am expecting them to handle that pressure, bounce back. The BR Demons are going to show up.
I love it. I mean, that's
I'm sold.
Oxygen. Mama Reeds, I know, is in the house as well. Plenty of family all around, and from Dark Zero and obviously Oxygen, we've got representation. TSM's parents as well. Hal's parents are here, and brother, actually. But Mark and Dan, quickly before we have to go into the series, which I'm sure people are waiting for, talk to me a little bit about your picks, why you select what you select.
I mean, I looked at Optic Gaming because coming into the tournament, I thought they were one of the form teams. When you were watching the international scrims, they were always within the top 5 week after week. It felt like they were just consistently putting points on the board, but it has been somewhat surprising to see them on the bubble going into this last set that we're going to see. But there are some good signs. I feel like there were some good Optic Gaming signs last time that we saw them on our screens. We saw them really starting to participate in a few more end games, and I just believe that it will come together at the right time for them. I expect to see them in the winner's side.
I was bullied, right?
Okay.
I wanted to put TSM, I wanted to pick Dark Zero. So you can't do that, it's boring. So I went for Alliance. Maybe there'll be an outside pick, but really I wanted to pick one of TSM or Dark Zero. But the scary thing about this group is, because TSM and Dark Zero are going to be competing, it's going to be difficult for a lot of these bubble teams to get points, which what makes it so exciting.
And that's what makes all of these other stories possibly the story that we start focusing on. It's easy to lose track when you have 2 big kind of bright lights in front of you. Maybe somebody sneaks in the darkness to go ahead and claim the spotlight. We will find out very soon. But for those watching, we want to make sure that you are getting what you deserve, which of course, well, it's a good time, but it's Twitch drops. That's really what I'm talking about. Thursday is today. It's Crimson Hawk Valkyrie skin time, so make sure you grab that. Hopefully you got your Crimson Striker Peacekeeper skin as well to go along with it to finish off some downed opponents in game. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we turn up the heat. You'll see more people in the stands. Here you will see more action from the exclusive ALGS Championship stickers, holo sprays, and ultimately the gun charm, which you can show off every single moment that you are playing Apex Legends. Wow. So excited about this, and you know what I'm very excited about as well, something that happens to a very well-deserving player. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but EA, Electronic Arts, has introduced the new Positive Play Award, and they've selected Apex Legends and a player from this community to have the representation of earning that first award in this prestigious category of being somebody who honors the community and being a bright light, someone who is extremely supportive and obviously shows us what it means to be a true team player and a good influence. We have the votes tallied. You have voted. We have found out who it is, and we will reveal it on September 10th. So stay tuned for our Positive Play Award coming up on Championship Sunday. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited. It's our final series of the day. We've got bracket stage after this, but one more matchup between A and C. Let's kick it over to our casters and see what they got.
Hey, thank you so much, Rain Day. We couldn't be more excited to be here in the Resorts World Arena. Spider, Tiff, and Dia, we're going to be calling all the action. But before we jump into that, I want to touch base on a point that Gaskin mentioned up there, talking about the big hitters in the lobby soaking up a lot of the points.
Yeah, it's really interesting talking to other teams that are participating in this matchup because, of course, everybody's looking at making it to winner's bracket, having a little bit of extra safety. But there's another point of focus, and that is that with the 2 LAN winners in the lobby, it's also your best opportunity not just to make the winner's bracket, but to practice for finals, that even if you jump into loser's bracket, you have the chance to make. So look out for everybody playing their best game of Apex Legends. It doesn't have to be about collecting kills, it has to be about preparing for the wins. And on Stormpoint is where we're going to be starting that whole journey.
And it's going to be really fun. We've got a couple contests to keep our eyes on. Specifically, we might get that Optic Gaming Gombare Otosan over at Down Beast. We'll look towards that later. But I know even in the green room, Bullet and Graceful, they were talking about how it's actually really nice to start out on Stormpoint as opposed to World's Edge. They might be able to gather a lot of points. And for teams like Oxygen Esports, you know, Jayhawk was mentioning it on the desk saying they are so good at getting points through the Split 2 playoffs, but
really strong. There's a reason I predicted them for the series.
Oh, well, tell me more. I mean, obviously, they're really impressive. Landing over there at Down Beast, they get a plethora of loot, usually good shields, easy rotates, and especially when you start to think about how some of those Storm Point zones have enacted to going up towards North Pad, where Fnatic will land, and they seem relatively uncontested this time. You know, obviously a little more clear, but TSM at the wall, Optic at Down Beast, Dark Zero at the mill. That's a lot of the top Titans just surrounding them, and they have a must-perform here to get into the winner's bracket.
Absolutely. So, in fact, we're about to jump into the lobby. So we got Legend Select up, which is an important time for us to figure out exactly how teams like MDY White, who do need a breakout series, are going to be performing this. Importantly, they've chosen to go with the Gibraltar, which is a departure from the meta of the championship so far, but not a pick that's been absent. 100 Thieves have been picking this up as well, and I don't think the Gibraltar is an out-of-nowhere pick. I think you can really get some serious value out of this particular Legend.
Well, the MDY White fans surely agree with you. I can hear them in the crowd now, but we are locked, we are loaded, we are in the dropship, and as our players make their way down to Storm Point, it is all going to start here. I love the split drop that FaZe enacts. They grab the Trident from Fish Farms, drive it straight up to Launchpad, and they will be able to utilize that for their later rotation.
With the dropship starting us off in the southeast, it does mean that FaZe get that boots on the ground first advantage, which could mean a lot, especially because they already have a crafter at Launchpad, and they can get so much more done in this time, using the time to craft bats, assuming they get themselves some nice shields, and maybe even crafting up shields if they don't. It'll allow them a priority rotate, and on the other side, Optic are going to be late dropping over at Down Beast. Although, looking at my map, it doesn't seem like Gunbare has chosen to contest. In fact, we've got them on screen, landing instead just off to the north of the wall, with the potential to rotate over to the previously unoccupied high point.
Well, that's actually not bad for them. I know Minus was talking about the drop spots, but before we get there, Aurora and Complexity, they typically like to land very similar on each other. Monsoon will take the building, grab a weapon, but Impulse, he wants to shut it down as much as possible with Luda already down, turning it into a 3v2. Yes, Yuchako's a little bit low, but raining on the high ground with the RE45, that's not bad to land on a flatline as well. That is what you need.
Yeah, flatline feels incredible at every stage in the game. It is one of the best guns in Apex Legends, and Aurora, for their part, have a Peacekeeper as well. So things are solidly in their favor with an early pick and some serious powerhouse weaponry. Contest's not over, but because they already have an advantage, because they have the majority of the ground outside of this building the Complexity are in, it's up to them to wait and ultimately for Complexity to make a mistake.
You can see the smoke out there trying to keep Monsoon and Cody inside the building with no real angles to put down on them as Oirain and Yuchako, you can see them kind of setting up the trap, grabbing those thermites, looking to use the grab lift to take to that high ground and force them. Now, the one thing that I've seen Aurora is so impeccable at is setting a trap where they'll leave one member outside and nade spam inside the building to force them out the front door.
And it's funny how immediately we get a small relocation. It's a delay on the contest, nothing more, but it's given the opportunity to chunk Impulse out and even up the numbers for just a second. Yuchako gonna drop inside, try to control this line of sight with the Sentinel. It's gonna be pretty feast or famine, and he misses the first shot, pulls out the wingman, and just does a touch of damage. Hasn't had anything traded back on him, and it gives the rest of Aurora time to stabilize.
You think about it, this Yuchako holds this door, and it's gonna connect, but we just need one more. But Yuchako goes down. Oirain and Impulse are going to have to close it, and they are able to pick up the trade. But they are not done yet. We just have one member of Complexity. Were they able to get away? No, they were not. Monsoon is going to fall, and Complexity will lose the 50-50 here on the first map.
I respect going down, trying to at least finish the fight. Complexity weren't going to get a lot done just because of how long this contest had taken. But both teams have missed out on a lot of time taken to loot and rotate. We've sat in two buildings the entire time. Now Aurora get to loot the rest of Cenote, and they've missed out seriously when we look at all the people around them. Mill is gone, Down to Beast is gone, North Pad is gone, even Oxygen over at Barometer have left. Almost nobody is left because we're all rotating up to where the game is ultimately going to be played.
Yeah, it's really tough. You see Dark Zero, this is typically where they'll position themselves the moment that circle starts to pull up north towards Cascade Falls, and that's actually a really solid way because the last time they played from here, they were able to pick up so many elimination, so much damage throughout, but Fnatic, I love the rotation going through the wall and dropping down just below it.
You control as much space as possible, and in all likelihood, most teams don't rotate back up to the north, pushing into high ground, so it leaves Fnatic in a relatively easy spot to play from, an unchallenged rotation. It'll be good for them, but other teams do have it a little bit harder. Say, teams like Oxygen, who are going to be playing just on the top side of the ski lift, it's not a fantastic place to be, and for now, it'll be fine. But once we get later on into the game, the likelihood that Zone actually pulls over here is very low.
Checking in, Gombreo Tosan hitting the rotate, sitting on triple white. But this is the legend composition that they had played during Split 2 playoffs. That's Valve, Watson, Newcastle. Time is of the essence, and look at them making unplayable spots playable. But check out, we had recently talked with TSM. They were going through the spiders there, but the command center positioning that they have taken, thinking that Zone would be the ultimate high ground as things start to collapse around them. Their only real risk here is maybe someone challenging them for this position, but you have to hold out the teams rotating through command center.
You do, and the nice thing about it is that with a survey beacon in command center, you should have an idea of when and if somebody is there. It does tend to be a pretty popular rotation because it takes you around the inside, doesn't expose you to a lot of fire from afar, a lot of 30-30 shots, the likes of which we're seeing from Hal, but it is just a bit of shield farming, and something that TSM can afford to do and should be doing to evo their shields up because they've got plenty of cells to back up this decision making.
To do as we keep an eye out. We got a good levels up there, Phoenix Kid, and now we're just going to be exactly kind of just vibing, as Nice Wig would say. It's so funny we're on TSM. I saw some pictures on the timeline, even from Timmy, who's playing in this lobby. I think his dad may have went over and checked out the TSM booth and traded teams, but loyalty, where is it? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, he'll actually get mad about that. Dads are seriously territorial. They want to know, or rather, they want their children to know that they're supported. So look out. I haven't seen Timmy's dad rage yet, but it's possible. Now I will say that for right now, there is no need to be upset. Everybody is doing fine. We have barely dropped a team at this point, having seen Complexity go out ages ago. And Dojo are getting to play their game. At Checkpoint, they've even got a beacon scan available to them, and it's going to be a pretty easy rotate out of Checkpoint. The real struggle will be when you eventually have to go over to Bunny Slopes, where we saw the game end earlier, because that's where open ground can be a lot more punishing, and timing from the Dojo, competitive experience is going to be the most important.
You mentioned their competitive experience, but we're in the group stages and they're coming into the final series with 83 points.
So
and you
good.
think of the threshold, they have set themselves up to advance to the winner's bracket, barring any major deviance from that. So we just need them to have a relatively solid series here, and they'll do just that. But as we get this beautiful free cam shot of Cascades, you can see that FaZe is occupying the building on the left, Pulverex in the center, Realize just north of it, and this is actually Realize's drop spot POI. So they have occupied to take that, barring, where do you think we're going to pull from that? They're trying to play the furthest north building on that side in case it goes forward.
Yeah, I think it's totally understandable, and as a team with very little data, getting further into the zones, you have to play flexible positions, or rather, that's certainly a way that you can approach the game. For teams like Alliance, who are going to be working with a little bit more information, they've chosen to take the opposite route, instead letting the zone tell them what's up. They've already got that third ring scan, and apparently a lot of damage. Hakis opens up quite quickly with the 301, and that's the post-nerf 301.
Still hits hard, running it with the car, but you know, most people worry about how much light ammo they have. 453 light ammo.
You should talk to Hal.
He should, but you know, Hal would have to get some of that, and that's not gonna happen, so.
Yeah.
Just not.
For the moment, it'll be a nice bit to make use of, especially because Alliance are playing around the edge. The thing is, because they're not playing zone, they don't have to worry about shields as much, since they will be taking fights with teams in front of them, and ideally for Alliance, wiping them pretty quickly. We've already seen an example of them trying to pick a fight. It hasn't gone all out just yet, but as the zone continues to close in, they'll have plenty of opportunity. In the meantime, however, other teams are starting to set themselves up for zone close, and Disguised are certainly one of them. They don't have a position in Cascade just yet, but with the additional information they were able to gather off of the ring gaming console. They know they're at least going to be inside the third zone and can pick a fight, arguably sandwiching Oxygen in between themselves and Alliance.
So they're going to need to do just that, coming into the series with 58 points, getting better and better. 24 from the first, 34 from the second, and you usually want to average around 33 to 34 per series, so they're going to have north of 50 points here to really solidify into that winner's bracket. But back to the dojo as they start that rotation. They have to choose 1 or 2 choke points here, and they likely will run into another team that's going to be wanting to clear out their back, and as you can see, it's going to be Optic Gaming they may potentially run into.
Tough to unseat Optic, especially in choke points. There's a reason that you see Optic sitting here, and it's because of the way that they're going to be able to use Catalyst and Bangalore in this choke to deny space, to buy time, and Horizon to engage when they darn well feel like they're going to win. So to push into this choke point may be a little much, but it's certainly not a decision that Dojo have to take at the moment. They have a whole other choke available to them, and this is a nice rotation for Dojo to have taken, since over towards the north side of the map isn't going to be nearly as contested, since there aren't as many teams that even come from a position where that's possible. You did mention earlier TSM needing to scout out other squads that would come from there. They've just gotten the heads up that there will be another team coming from behind them, and we know from looking at the map that's going to be North Eption moving through Command Center.
For Aurora trying to make their way just on that southern side of the ring. They are holding that very hard edge of it, which makes sense for the rotation. Coming from Cenote Cave, the only team with eliminations really thus far being able to take out Complexity. They're safe here for the time being with only 10 seconds until that ring finally closes, and then they'll get that information of where they need to go. But you can see on the mini-map, they've got 2 different options. Do they want to rotate towards the right, or should they wrap around to the north? And they're going to have opposition whichever way they go as we look towards that map. Go next, and Enter Force 36 will lie in wait, but the right provides the easiest access to the zone, and realize Pulverex and FaZe, they have called that perfectly.
This is a really difficult zone to play in. You know, we've seen FaZe play around Cascade before. Previously, they opted into the building on height, closer to where Ganbare currently sit, right around where MDY White are at. With Go Next and Enter Force 36, they've taken the gamble. This is pulling out of Cascade onto Bunny Slopes, much like Dark Zero has gambled as well. But now that everybody's going to have to cross into the open ground and into Cascade, there's going to be a lot of Bangalore smoke in the way, is the idea. Because teams on the outside need to survive, and they not only need to survive each other, but all of the happy shooters in Cascade that are just going to be looking to pick up a few extra KP.
Fnatic hitting a rotation in, going to that further east building before they necessarily drop down to where TSM is kind of situated by Command Center. The Dojo have finally started making their way through the choke point onto Optic Gaming.
Oh, no.
Catwall being expended in an incoming frag, but the grav lift and the black hole are ready. We just need it to connect. Design has multiple arc stars. We just need some good opening damage, but once Design full has a wingman, it could be chaotic.
90 as a quick couple shots from the wingman do push Optic a little further away. It's a cooldown advantage that they've been able to trade out. It's Horizon ult to buy space in answer to the Catalyst wall, and Optic do have to draw it back. Giving up space, not ideal for them, and they don't have Digis to fight in smoke. Fortunately, this Trident will provide a bit of cover, but they now find themselves sandwiched. And this is exactly the situation that Optic wanted to avoid. Dojo say, all right, well, we see that you're in a not so great position. Let's get out of here.
It's actually really respectable hitting the evacuation tower once the other teams have started to get involved in Dark Zero, opting to leave their building and maybe take a nice poke at it, as Aurora is our next team to go down at the hands of Go Next.
Optic, remember, no longer have a Dark Veil to make this cross across the open ground easier. They can't cut off lines of sight with anything but Bangalore smoke, and even that's on cooldown. So much has been used to stymie the push from Dojo, but for some reason, nobody's even shooting at Optic. In fact, it's just now that aimbot even takes note, and it's because he's being shot in the back.
They should have had someone definitely anchoring that as Go Next go down. Skittle Cakes as well, now dropped and knocked, are going to be forced into the center of multiple teams. All of the attention is now on them, but Enter Force 36, the Dojo is occupying them and able to take them out, but they're running into trouble. Timmy and Design need to answer back.
Now, we knew when Dojo started moving off to the south, this was going to be difficult. They were going to have to fight with other teams. They must have known it as well. Oxygen go down in the kill feed. 15 squads left, and Dark Zero have moved in to help clear clean up Optic.
15 squads in this zone right now is atrocious. Dojo are going to fall, and now Dark Zero have found themselves inching ever so much closer towards that zone. You can see the incoming ultimates that are going to be thrown their way. They've only got the tree for cover, but they will be able to avoid that with ease, but not before Jen Burton's able to grab a knock onto Fnatic's Yuka, who was looking for a chance to rotate, using all the chaos as the opening to push.
Zero.
But Zero, we heard you were a madman, and look at you go.
Nice slide in from Jen Burton as well. Use this Catalyst's immunity to Ferrofluid to keep some momentum and just take out Fnatic. It has been a clinic from Dark Zero off on the western side of this zone. They do still have a contest, however. TSM hold the high ground right above them. These two powerhouse teams sitting right next door to each other. But TSM, notably, has not partaken in the aggression, haven't accessed any of the low ground or the kills that come with it. We're sitting in 11th. Yes, points are available, yes, but TSM have no kills. They're playing it slow.
This is a fight that may have to happen in order to clear out the northern side of this while the teams are rotating. Because if Dark Zero pushes down and tries to get into zone, TSM could easily wrap around. Let's jump on board with them and hear what they want to do.
This building might be open. It might be open.
Can we evac for it? Is it even safe?
It's barely like not really.
Yeah, we should evac for it. I think we should evac for it now. They might shoot us off.
We're in the open.
Yeah, no. If it's taken, we have to go like bottom floor of this building. Okay.
What about the, is the Rupa big building open?
There was somebody there. There was somebody there. I saw someone shooting.
I'm looking at it right now.
Take
There's nobody there, yeah.
Over here, they're fighting over here.
Someone watch your back.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure
They're
we
underneath us. They're underneath us. Wait, why is our ship rocking? They're
right underneath us. It's right underneath us.
The team in the building's procking that.
Yeah, I'm looking east. They're not really fighting at all. They're fighting on the...
They were able to hit a nice rotation, now coexist on top of FaZe, but not before. Gombreo Tosan is going to fall at the hands of Sentinels and Alliance. They will fall as well. Go able to make that happen before. Now Disguise, they're able to clear out their entire side of the zone. They're still on high ground and they'll have to work their way ever so closely to Cascade Falls, but for the time being, no one's in the next zone in front of them. They're all inside the buildings of Cascades. That mass exodus that we're about to witness, that TSM has just jumped into, is going to be the most chaotic thing I've seen in a very long time.
Disguise should have a few fence lines to play on high ground, and they can survive and even thrive in this environment should they play it right. As you say, with not a whole lot of cover left, in fact, almost no cover, we're going to be playing with corners of supply bins as the only real space. Sentinels still hold down towards the south of this next ring and also have the opportunity to play with just a little bit of cover. Them and Disguised actually could go head to head. We talked about MDY White earlier as well, a team that needs to perform. They've got high ground in Cascade and they can even contest Disguised. It is a battle for the high ground, as that's going to be the most important thing during the course of this next Cascade close.
Dark Zero, they start to move, smoke and run into the building. Someone's on their roof. That's going to be likely a Pulvrex, who have been in this building since the beginning of this game, waiting for someone to make something happen. You've got to realize they're hitting the rotation just to where, but the Grav lift, they're going to try to play roof, and now Pulvrex are going to go under fire. They hit the Dark Veil, but so does Kill Opposing Co. So they're going to go to the right. There's going to be at least 3 of them, and everyone just wants to stay out of sight for as long as possible. Disguised working on taking up as much space on that eastern side of the zone, and everyone's like, throw out the ultimates, it's time to throw down.
And look at where TSM have positioned themselves, right outside of these supply crates. They've got one Catalyst wall in between them and everyone else, but so many more are trapping the rest of these teams inside just a corner of Cascade, the last building available on the high ground. Disguised have suffered losses. Senox is down and down for good, while TSM on the low ground play for the kills.
TSM finally forced into FaZe, able to grab a knock on to Snipe, and they are going around the clearing up, and instead it's Dark Zero who falls, and FaZe behind them. The TSM fans, I can hear them screaming, and they just keep going forward. Big E throwing it all down. Let's go. Playing the knockdown shield of Reps, able to do a little bit of damage that I would never expect. Big E, he is him!
Somebody check him PC. Verhulst Just is going wild on the international stage. Just 50 HP and a dream. He's got a couple shield swaps available, but on controller, it's so risky. Jumps out in front, gets taken down. He's done an incredible amount of damage, but it wasn't enough. Pulverex smell the blood in the water, or rather on the edge of zone, come down and finish off Realize, earning the privilege of being one of the last 3 teams in the first game on Store Point.
They were able to maintain the high ground as if that push didn't even matter, but now they're starting to pull towards Sentinels. Zenile, maybe 150 HP, trying to heal up is going to be Shunmi, and we are hitting the rotate towards Sentinels. Dark Fail, hiding their cover, and they have all of the space able to reset.
Lord.
The EMP is going to hit.
This is going to be brutal for Sentinels. RKN and Co are slowed, are taken down. Now there is a trade. Pulverex operate as a duo, but we know Pulverex, and Pulverex can absolutely slay out as a duo. They return to the winner's slot in our first game of their final series in group stage. This is exactly the way that they needed to start.
Pulverex came into their final series of the group stages with 56 points, knowing that they were going to need north of 40 points here in this series to throw themselves into that winner's bracket. And to start off the 6 games with a win, that's what you need. And there are the signs, the golden Nessie support, and they are in.
This is really great for them because Pulverex captured the hearts of fans back at Rally, and now that we're getting to see them succeed, and fortunately with all 3 people on their team, they are doing so well. Even with their struggles in the group stage, being able to pick up a win here in these lobbies, as was talked about on the analyst desk, is incredibly difficult and indicative of the performance that you can give in a finals lobby.
And I love to see them on that crypto. I've seen them break it out multiple times. They've historically played that composition in APAC North, and they were kind of deviating from that, trying to adapt to the group stages. But now that they've returned back to crypto on the Legend composition, just see how much more beneficial that is to be able to get that EMP off. Yes, you run the risk if one of your teammates have maybe already pushed into that fight, they get stunned in the meantime. But you said it best, they can operate as a duo quite efficiently.
And can we just say as well, I know they didn't win the game, and I know that we just saw Pulverex walk up to them and kill everyone, but Sentinels got 2nd place. And Sentinels have actually been performing quite well. They've got around 70 points so far, with a 30-point or so finish in this group. They could easily move on to the winner's bracket in just a little while. They've still got a newbie to international play in Koifel, and they're honestly navigating this really great, given how little time they've had to prepare and adapt with a new player.
Let's run back that final circle, but that is an impressive point. I think they were telling me he just turned 17, so incredibly young to be on a competitive stage like this, but performing so well considering how they have changed up their playstyle. Was once a heavy zone team, now adapting to edge, being more aggressive, and they were tied with 20th place coming into this series with only 2 match series, so they should be a shoe-in. But here is a look at that final push from Pulverex, focusing on healing up, trying to get away and not get stunned by that Bangle.
And it's a really impressive finish from Pulverex, and exactly the right way to play the territory that they had. Their execution was simple. In this last team fight, it was just as clean as EMP and send everybody forward. But when we think about the fight that took place just before this, the wipe on TSM and Realize that happened underneath them, we have to remember that they were sat in that building for a while. It was all about patience for Pulverex, not getting overeager, not sending on TSM or Realize or anyone before it was exactly the right time and exactly the right amount of squads. You know who lets you know that better than anyone? It's Crypto. It's a compositional difference that they're able to use to get perfect information on squads around them. We've seen other teams, much like Ascend, who was a big topic of conversation earlier today, use exactly the same strategy to perform out of their minds.
And it's actually performing really well here, specifically if you're not able to get out of that building physically and scout it. You've just got the windows where that drone can kind of snake its way out and see who's approaching and who's looking to rotate and then farm with the EMP. So they did everything that they needed to do there. Now, if they keep up that momentum moving forward, it should be hopefully enough to get them into that winner's bracket. Because you think about that, what's on the line here? We're gonna have, you know, winner's bracket and elimination round 2 tomorrow, but those are gonna be 8-game series. So if you have to go from that elimination round, you're going to be playing so many games.
And honestly, a lot of this has to do with just player rest and recuperation. You guys have been here for a while. You know that we've played a lot of games in the past couple of days, and if you secure yourself a spot in the winner's bracket, it is such a comfort knowing that you no longer have to worry about fighting for your tournament life in the same way as those who have been put back into the lower bracket that do really need to be concerned with elimination. It's less study, it's less VOD review, it's a lot more confidence that you get to benefit from, and that is really what's on the line for these teams, because when you do go into the lower bracket, it's by no means over, but it does become that much more of a close battle.
Speaking of close battles, you called it. You said Sentinels did a great job just playing for second, like not necessarily playing for second, but the fact that they got second.
Yes.
But they tied 18 points, right? 9 placement points, 9 eliminations, and that's not taking away anything from Polvrex, who were able to get 6 just playing from Cascades for the majority of the game, and it kind of made an interesting move here because you've got a ton of teams that are sitting with 8 points, 9 points, 8. It's going to be anyone's game, and for a lot of these teams that need to soak up and get north of 40 points, it's going to be challenging unless they can get maybe a north of a 20-point win here.
And not as top-heavy as other lobbies that we've seen, which is interesting, given that it's only the first game. Ganbareo Tosan, though, sitting in 11th place, are a big question mark for me after game 1. We know they switched up their draw spot to avoid a contest with Optic, something that could very well have let them net them 2 less points. However, landing in not a POI and having to move your way up to high point didn't get them great shields, didn't get them great position, and ultimately they were taken out by DSG, who walked up with full purples onto a team of full whites, and you just can't let that happen.
I mean, that's what you get when you play Edge, right? You just focus on prioritizing getting that late zone information, crafting up the Evo shields, and preparing for an all-out battle there, and Disguise were looking incredibly well, and that's something that they have to do to perform here. I mean, at least any team that's outside of the top 20 will need to do that, specifically Geo finding themselves in 40th place coming into the final series.
Yeah, and like you say, Disguised also need plenty of points to make sure that they make it over to winners. This is also, I mean, another interesting team that people had varied expectations of. I know that, speaking of Sentinels, they did a little bit of a prediction before we got into the competition, and they did not expect great things of DSG. We had a lot of doubters, even in the crowd, and yet they've demonstrated that they can win games during the course of group stage. I think they've done a fantastic job of making sure that they're actually quite competitive with other top-level teams that we've seen win lands, or at least get very close to.
Hey, well, we'll see. Maybe they can get another one here in the final group stage series, but we'll have to see, because we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have match number 2.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Apex Legends Global Series Year 3 Championships at the Resorts World Arena in Birmingham, UK. Look, I've really worked on my pronunciation, and I live dangerously close to Birmingham, Alabama. Let me tell you that much. But I am so happy to be here. We are on our final series of group stages, coming off a Pulverex win in Cascade.
And a critical Pulverex win as well, something that they, as many teams in this final lobby of the night, need to advance to the winners of bracket. Those are the stakes. For those of you who are just tuning in, we're about to wrap up the group stage, at which point we will be competing for elimination. So a win, some big points laid down during the course of the next now 5 games will make you all the more secure in those to come and leading into the finals.
Yeah, Pulverex came into this series with 56 points.
Not a lot.
Exactly, we talk about that threshold, right? 92 was the split 2 playoffs that we've thrown around, but you really want to feel safe. I think Graceful said it best, 100 points plus or minus 10. But to feel really safe, we are looking for that 100-point threshold, which would mean Pulverex would need 44 points out of this entire series.
And I think this is where you can actually be a little bit concerned, because a win is quite good for them. It was a pretty low point win when we look at the history of group stage so far. Sentinels tied with them there, and Sentinels had a lot less points to make up. With plenty more opportunity, 2 games left on Storm Point, 3 on World's Edge. Pulverex cannot rest easy, even given the first game win. It's not given them as much forgiveness as other wins might, so it's time to lock in and get ready for game 2 of Storm Point.
And as our teams, they hit the dropship, hit the Legend Select, I'm really curious to see kind of what this is gonna look like. Is it the TSM plot armor for them, or did they just get hot zone in a ring console?
Now, once again, Optic aren't going to be contested. Ganbare Otosan, one of the squads that did not get as much loot as they needed in the most recent series, are going to be forfeiting that preemptively once again. A contest that we can look forward to is going to be that of Aurora, you have to imagine. But even now, looking at the dropship, it doesn't seem like we've got a whole lot of trails leading towards Cenote. This dropship that took us from this time the western side of the map to the eastern has given Optic and Dark Zero, even Fnatic, first move, and Aurora have been left alone.
That's actually really smart of Complexity to do. They came into the series with 47 points, needing a massive series, so electing to withdraw from the contest is totally fine for them, because Pulverex already had done that. They had recently been challenging North Eption at Thunderwatch, but they knew that Jurassic was free, and that's where they went to land. And I don't know, everyone always talks about TSM plot armor, but I think it's Pulverex plot armor right now, because when you look at the zone, they land Jurassic after leaving Thunderwatch. Where is it pulling? It is going such in favor of them, and they'll have a survey beacon to boot.
It's one of the blessing and a curse things, because since you have a survey beacon, you can theoretically see where everybody is going, but because you don't have a ring console, will Pulverex even know that they should post up here? Will they get out of position, find a ring console, or get a survey scan and realize that they actually should have stayed home?
That is the biggest gamble, and we saw that this morning in World's Edge, right? Where so many teams went to Skyhook, taking that gamble because they didn't have information.
Yeah.
And that is so challenging to make that call.
And there's another interesting point about Pulverex here. Because they've chosen to go Jurassic again, Complexity have denied them a lot of loot. Typically, teams that go Jurassic will be able to loot up just to the north. This time, because Complexity are operating essentially without a POI, they've taken away a lot of Pulverex's momentum in the early game, which will make their round all the more difficult. Complexity will also have a tough time because they're operating with essentially half a POI's worth of loot. But you know who else could have a difficult one? It's Dark Zero and Optic as they zoom on past each other. Dark Zero are going to watch this happen, perhaps follow suit. We could get a kind of car chase going on, but it doesn't look like we want to play Fast and Furious today.
I was going to say a little high-speed pursuit, no big deal. They might run into each other later on, but it's all about getting the primary locations early. I mean, this is honestly pretty intense.
It's a race to Barometer, and it's one that Optic have won so far. They don't take that much damage on the way in, so they win the race to the building. One that was surprisingly close and adrenaline-filled for this early in the game.
The fact that Down Beast, Optic Gaming was able to zoom past the mill, the DZ was probably like, hey, I see what you're doing over there. We'd like to join you, sir.
That was awesome. I love that. More Apex racing games, please. Now, given that Optic have prioritized this spot very early on, they are still going to have to share space with teams like Oxygen, who Landover and Barometer. This is a game, actually, that could bring Oxygen, who had a little bit of Jayhawk's confidence coming into today's series, into the forefront of our minds.
Speaking of confidence, I have all the confidence in the world that Koiful is going to be able to dodge out on the incoming frags, throwing down a couple of arc stars of their own, just trying to hold on to this building. Think of the teams that are rotating around this area. Go next, Oxygen, but with it pulling to Barometer, they will have their own quickness of their preferred location. So maybe they got the Jayhawk on the desk buff.
They very well could have. TSM find themselves in a contest up against GO. You may know that because there's a Newcastle right in front of us, and not a whole lot of people are running it. Burls has an off angle right now. We saw him do incredible damage during the last series. Gets chunked, however, has to jump back, and Hal going low and going down could be the end of TSM.
Juzna going massive there, and that is what we like to see. TSM cleaned up. Gombere needing as many points as they can potentially get. Like we said, 27 points coming into this series. And if you want that 100 points, 73 points would need to be acquired here. And I think that's almost competing with the highest score that we've seen from any of our group series matchups.
One of our 2 LAN champions in this lobby was just taken out at the hands of a team that has yet to find success in group stage, that is not playing out of their regular POI, that has so many disadvantages, and that's how close Apex can be. One misstep from even the great TSM means that they get taken down by Gunbury Otosan, who are very much proving that even though they've had a rough go, are not to be messed around with. This is a team that I expected great things from coming into champs, and they, while they've had a difficult time, still can make that happen, still can make the finals.
Definitely still can. We have to think of teams like FaZe. They want to make it in there as well. And I know it's their coach's birthday today, so that would be a really nice birthday present to Coach Dan.
That would be cool. I do know that FaZe have been struggling a bit internally with their approach to the game. Phony himself was talking about how they've not been playing with a lot of confidence, and it's really impacted their results. Simply not trusting that you're making the right play, being able to follow a call with complete faith that it will go well and that you'll be able to make your way out of it, means that FaZe haven't been able to put up the results that I think a lot of their fans expect of them as well. So we'll see if they're able to clean it up in this series, but we know that it's something they've got their eyes on as they look to improve over the course of the next few days. Realize's rotation down is going to take them right through the recent site of crime, scene of the crime, that's the word that I'm looking for, of the TSM GO fight, and hopefully onto the low ground. They should be able to take a nice evac tower or even the gravity cannon if they don't have one.
Checking in, GO still hitting that rotation, moving ever so closely towards the center of where that next ring will pull. And we start to think about the teams that have really impressive macro. You have the handful of teams that are electing to say, this is actually going to pull towards Barometer more, and you think of the open bamboo forest over there. So teams that may look to operate that, but if you go to take that too early, which you can see as GO flies just above that area, sights out a team on the bridge, and they're going to get peppered, and they're actually gonna just full send the team on the bridge.
Oh my god, the confidence that it takes to jump on one. Dogma has nades all over and manages to survive with 20 HP, but instantly goes down. Jung-hee now on the defensive, has a castle wall in front of him, but isn't able to pick up Dogma nearly as quickly. And Pulver X, they're here for revenge. You land on Shunmi, it's not gonna go well.
Here comes the EMP from Saku, and Epchan trying to find an angle, but when a team with a Newcastle and a Watson lands on you and they throw down that Newcastle wall, maybe start with the reses, Pulver X really doesn't have anywhere to go. They were playing underneath the bridge for a reason, trying to hide away from all the teams on high ground from Barometer.
And Gunbury Otosan, having survived the initial barrage of ordinances, have everything that they need. Now with the generator behind them, it's them who unseat Pulverex, forcing them out into the open, and good lord, the shots out of that G7.
This is what I was saying. The moment that Pulverex try to move out from that bridge, they are just going to be in the line of sight, and Skittlecakes is going to be the one to benefit from it. But this is the type of location that GO is set up to play, utilizing the Watson fences. They already were able to throw down the Watson generator, and for Pulverex, hey, it's all water under the fridge.
That was way too relevant.
That one's for you, Otter. I know you're out there somewhere.
And yet, not exactly what I was looking for. I will say it's exactly what they were, what Ganbare Otosan were looking for, because they now have a position that is made playable simply because they have Watson. We saw Sen do this earlier in the day, where they were able to take up spots that otherwise people really just don't want to play because they have a generator, because it's all the safer. Alliance, however, they don't want to be playing this. Hackies goes low, but they're on the winning end of the fight. Yuki finds a knock onto Yuka with an Arc Star, and now the fight handily in Alliance's favor. They're going to go push on forward.
And this is a really wild engagement between Alliance and Fnatic because they are so close in group series points. Alliance coming in with 66 points, but they've been getting better each and every series. And as Yuki falls, it's going to be Effect that needs to close the distance. He's going to hit the grab flip, try to heal up, but not before taking so much damage. But he's still able to get the bat off, and he's able to turn around and lock onto him. But the hip fire with 30-30 can't handle with their tap strafing. That's the mechanical movement we like to see out of Meltera.
Hackies gets a quick res, but that is so bad to have lost Effect on the push. And Effect, of all players who Alliance rely on so heavily, it will still mean that you only have one member of Fnatic escaping, and that at least temporarily, as Alliance could still give chase. But on the other side of the map, Realize are looking to make their exit from Jurassic, and with some nice smokes to cover them, could very well do it.
All right, Realize, I had them predicted as my team to win this series, and they were so close to it. It's got but Northeption, they need to win as much as they possibly can. They are sitting just on that threshold, right underneath that points cutoff for the winner's bracket. And MDY White, they're a little bit further down, but this is going to matter to them. They need every elimination as possible. But when someone's sitting outside with a Kraber, that is the scariest thing that you could ever expect. But Northeption able to go out.
Unfortunate for them, as like you say, they needed plenty of points. They will have the opportunity to make them up later. We'll see if this Kraber shot lands, but through the smoke, Sangjun just isn't seeing the same thing that we are. Ends up tossing in a quick Horizon ultimate, gets chunked out by a third party, throwing in shots from afar. Realize have to be very calculated and very fast with how they take this fight, if they even want to. I like they're playing the roof.
Yeah, honestly, you really kind of need to. I'm just sitting here thinking about this because this is going to be an atrocious zone pull, pulling over just a little bit further away from Barometer into that open water. The bridge is the move, and GO called that perfectly.
Yeah, this one is going to be difficult, but MDY White, having just picked up their Gibraltar, do have a safety net in the next rotation that should still take them past Realize, who have dipped rather back into Jurassic to hit a quick survey beacon. The zone does continue to make this a little bit more challenging, pulling further into Barometer, and Alliance know that very well, having just made their rotation around the outside of Jurassic, and now needing to hold the teams that would otherwise rotate in from their left from pushing in behind them. Their next move should take them down to the south and over towards the building that Optic rotated into earlier. FaZe fight for their very lives in Barometer and seem to be doing, well, not so great. Boney's gonna go down, and while there's a res on the bottom side, this isn't one of those gold knockdown shield fights that we've seen so many times today.
Where's the gold knockdown when you need one? But Zero with the 30-30 able to completely throw down and knock onto Oxygen Esports. In Oxygen Esports FaZe, those are the two teams fighting for their lives. At the top of this series, you were talking specifically about how the presence of TSM, how the presence of Dark Zero were going to affect a lot of these teams looking to find themselves in the winner's bracket. But if you run up against a powerhouse, a titan like Zero, what can you do?
It's honestly, it's better to do it now, because this same team is going to be punishing you in the finals. That is a promise. Dark Zero, playing the gravity cannon for now, are taking up a lot of space towards the south side of Barometer, making sure that teams cannot coexist around them. And it looks like the same thing is true even for Disguised, who I will say have to deal with a few other squads that are looking at them, but only have one member left.
Oxygen Esports, they're going to fall at the hands of FaZe, who need every elimination with that 51-point mark that they came into. And Optic Gaming, so many of our talent team's prediction to win this series, it's like they're starting to connect a couple things together here. But as the rotation starts to move, we have Effect going up against Tom Young-kun, and they're going to take them out. One fell sweep of that, and Alliance starts hitting the cleanup before they have to focus on which way they would like to rotate into the next circle.
It looks like their Fnatic engagement was enough to wake them up. After that, after honestly barely surviving Melstera, this is plenty for Alliance.
They are dancing around right in front of Melstera, who is trying to hide on the other side of the fence by the tree, and with no seer on the roster, it gives them that extra level of confidence to survivability, but realize it's also going to dodge around. But Complexity, who elected to move out of Cenote Cave, has once again found themselves in trouble, but Monsoon needs to hit this, and the PK. Look, we always talk about our PKs hitting for 9. Sometimes you just gotta hit him with an Arc Star, throw it down, maybe hit for 90 plus. What Monsoon needs right now, because they're in trouble.
And he needs a little bit of cover as well, really punishing, especially when the dojo were staring down thermal sights at you. Timmy, gonna swap out for a little bit more coverage, but this gravity cannon provides so much space and safety to any player on it. The dojo are even able to take some of the high ground that extends just off to the south of them.
Are we forgetting? I mean, this is crazy. A big frag coming in, and Misi going to fall. Slapping code they need to throw down because Sentinels!
Nice.
This isn't our zone IGL anymore. They are hard edge, ready to fight, redefining their legend composition in every bit of their playstyle. RKN was on the desk at Split 2 playoffs, got so much more motivation, made some changes, and they are back with vengeance at Champs.
After Zenile gets a little bit more damage thrown at him, he's already used his Bangalore ultimate, so the disengage onto the low ground is smart from Sentinels. But remember, they don't have a catalyst wall now, and they're going to need to rotate up towards the north, up towards Ganbare Otosan, who playing under the bridge need these points.
Yeah, but if no one's able to walk across the open water to challenge out on Ganbare, you have to think of who may be able to do that, because FaZe, they will have to move ever so closely, but MDY White at one point was challenging Realize on the other side of the mountain, but as that circle starts to come in, you can see Alliance, Enterforce 36, they're all being filtered straight into each other, and the frags, the nades, Effect once again utilizing the grav lift to reposition himself. He's actually doing a good job here of not overextending and trying to make sure he's safe from the left.
But just like the last game, we're down so quickly to just being able to play these supply crates, and it's not enough cover for Alliance to really make an aggressive move and clear out the team that's otherwise rotating behind them. Effect still is in the line of fire, still has so little space, and Enterforce could wipe them out here and now.
And Effect really needed to suppress the fire onto Enterforce 36, so Hackett was able to get the res up on Yuki, but meanwhile, Chuzna, Zhonghee from Geo were able to...
This is the fight.
But yes, this is the good one. Here we go.
At this point, it's FaZe versus Ganbare for a game-winning position, and FaZe take it. FaZe, who need the points, who are fixing the mentals. They have got confidence this time around. They've won the fight, but Zero knows how important this engagement was. Takes to the bridge using that cover of smoke and the recent bloodshed off to the eastern side.
The fact that they were able to get this bridge for free, the remnants of the Newcastle wall, they will keep going forward, wanting to capitalize on the already down players of FaZe, and just like that, Zainu says, I'm here, able to shoot through the catalyst wall, and Jen Burton capitalizing on what Zero has already started. If they can survive this, they will have such a powerful position, knowing that they're cleared out, and FaZe will fall to the LAN champions of Split 2 playoffs.
Now, that was a marvelous push, knowing that FaZe were too weak to defend. It's great isolation from Dark Zero, and you'll notice nobody's even following up on it. Kraber shot from Realize, gonna go wide. Unfortunately, not enough value out of the Kraber to keep it still with them. Moving on forward, you have to think about how you're rotating to the next zone, and at this point, those teams that have the bridge are going to be the most important. Alliance managed to survive. Dark Zero still hold a bit of the island, but it doesn't have nearly as much cover as they'd like, and Realize are on the push!
Obli able to take down Effect, so now we're looking at a 3v2 situation. There goes the full. This is what they need to do, but that ring is going to be at their back. They're going to keep getting forced straight to that last member of Alliance who was elected to go straight into zone. But when you have sharks in the water known as DZ, they're going to look to encompass as much of that space. Let the chaos consume them. Dojo, Alliance are going to fall, and now Optic moving straight towards Complexity. The same rotation that we've witnessed Dark Zero take earlier.
And can Enemy challenge Complexity? Optic certainly can't peek it. They've got plenty of threats in front of them, and it's a certain death sentence to try and send it onto Complexity. Optic are just gonna have to coexist like this, and it may come down to the final circle to take these teams actually enough time to fight each other. Dark Zero, however, they can harass Realize, who are our northernmost team with just a bit of rock cover and arguably the best endgame position that comes with the curse of also being the focus of every team in the lobby.
Yeah, but so can Complexity as well. They're just playing just on the left side of Optic, right out of their line of sight. And when you've just stuck between a rock and a hard place, realizes Obli is going to be able to shoot straight into Complexity. No amount of bang smoke is going to be able to protect them.
Does look like it's bought them a brief respite, however. Complexity try and get a little bit more space, but this wall from Optic solved the problem we were talking about earlier about team being taken down. There are some shots being laid in on them from afar, however, and Noct has gone down. Realize they're picking a fight, and now that we have just 3 squads left, when Realize go forward, they're letting Dark Zero do the same thing, and they have to know that.
They are essentially looking for as many eliminations as possible. And Dark Zero, you know what they're looking for? A win here.
At this point, Realize know that they're playing for second, but now they've overextended. They didn't get the full squad wipe, and they're in the line of fire of Dark Zero. It is a big misstep, a lack of execution, and Dark Zero here to punish it. Quickly, the push comes in, and Drop goes down. Optic are fallen first, but immediately after that, Realize hit the floor, and Dark Zero win yet another game.
Absolutely textbook. Knowing that FaZe was weak in the bamboo forest, they pushed through, clean house, and bide their time until the right moment to hit the Dark Veil rotation onto the third party. Absolutely impressive, and honestly, they're looking full form here, and I know we had DZ on the predictions for the talent desk, and this is exactly what they wanted to see. I see a Papa Jen Burton in the stands right there, front and center with the DZ. He shook my hand today, and he hit me with just a DZ, and I was like, I see you.
He knew they were going to win today, and it's been great for them. Even Jen Burton looked relaxed after that game, and you could tell why. Because looking at the way that this lobby played out, Dark Zero never put themselves in a position where a fight was 50-50. Even during the last course of this game, they were taking pot shots from afar, ensuring that they had an advantage, and even capitalizing on, as you'll recall, FaZe over at the island, an over push from Realize. It doesn't matter to them who gets second, who gets third, who gets fourth. At this point, Dark Zero play for the win, and only the win. It's what makes them deadly, not just in these games, but on match point.
Let's take a look back at that final circle so we can relive that winning moment. Kind of just a few steps back, right when we were at 4 squads remaining. They were already sitting on 6 eliminations, and Triple Red sharing out the light ammo. Look, it's all about the light ammo.
Now, they don't have the same kill feed as we do. This is an anonymous mode for them, but looking at it from this perspective, even assuming equal information, knowing that you have 3 squads left, as soon as you start seeing knocks, Dark Zero know that the fight is going down, and it's just as quickly that they drop the Dark Veil. As soon as Drop goes down, although of course they don't know that it's dropped, the evac tower actually adds an extra element to this, giving them a vantage point should they need it over the Dark Veil, and access to a little bit more of an easy entrance over the previous Dark Veil of, I believe it was Optic. From then on, it is just a matter of digiing through the smoke. And how many times have we seen this recently? In a Bangalore Bloodhound meta, digis are golden, literally, and, well, no, I guess it's only figuratively, but it's figuratively in multiple ways.
You know, I heard Digi's going to be in the Crafter later this week, so things are going to get to be a little bit mixy in there. You can see we've got Zero's dad, we've got Jen Burton's dad and mom, and everyone so happy to be here front and center to support Dark Zero. That's what we love to see. Honestly, it makes me super happy. We have all of the family. Vane earlier from Oxygen Esports, I was walking by and I saw Vane, and then I saw, you know, Vane's dad, Vane's mom on the backs of their shirts, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just super cool to see.
I mean, it's the best part of the event. I don't know how many times we're going to talk about it today, during the course of our casts, because we talked about Timmy's father earlier being here to support, and it's wonderful to see the support from the crowd, and from the fans, and most importantly, from those that you grow up with your whole life. And having that has certainly inspired confidence in a lot of teams, inspired their best. Dark Zero, perhaps not achieving a completely dominant game, but you'd be mistaken for thinking that it was a 30-plus point game after the way that it finished, because this squad never felt out of control. And I'll tell you who did make other teams feel out of control is Realize right behind them. This was a great game for them, and Tiff, I have to hand you credit. You may not have predicted Dark Zero, but Realize was not a bad choice.
I've definitely been keeping an eye on them throughout international scrims, and they can have really strong performances when it matters. And yes, they're pretty much solidified to find themselves in that winner's bracket, but starting out from Cascades on Stormpoint, I thought they would have really strong rotations, and so far the zones have been ever in their favor, and Sentinels as well, 4 points on the back half of this, but Fnatic so close to on the cusp of the winner's bracket qualification. They need to have maybe a back half of the 4 games, at least, 10 to 15 points per game.
With one more storm point, I mean, who's to say what happens? We do know that you can get a little bit unlucky in fights, and seeing how things played out towards the north of the zone this time, you do kind of have to chalk it up to bad luck for Fnatic. There are plenty of things to improve, but at this point, you're just looking forward to the next couple of games, because as you say, the gap is small.
And as we look through the top 3 teams of the match 2 results, Dark Zero with 5,100 damage, Optic Gaming with 4,400, and these are the 2 teams that land Down Beast and the Mill respectively, who started out match number 2 in the hot pursuit of the Trident race to Barometer and fought tooth and nail throughout. So it's so nice to see them there in the top 3, but Realize with 3,900, and they are all about similar eliminations, right? 8, 8, 7, it's impressive.
It's not that far away, and honestly, it demonstrates the value for DZ and Optic of getting to a POI early in an active position in that POI, even though they had different reads on it. It was very similar approaches, and I have no doubt that if Optic arrived 15 seconds later, the building that they ultimately chose is already occupied by Dark Zero. So having seen that, we do still have the opportunity to watch these teams play their best game, and importantly, one that is reliant on clean early rotations.
Ooh, speaking of watching those clean early rotations, I know we had a chance previously to sit back, check out the Cyber Z watch party that's happening around here. So let's go ahead and throw and check out what that is all about.
What's up, everybody? I'm We the People. We have Cole here, a special guest, all right? He hosts the Japanese ALGSs live on Twitch, and my man has an absolute insane production here. Can you tell us a little bit about the Japanese community and how well received Apex is?
It's actually, I think it's one of the biggest community in the world. Actually, like our broadcast is being watched by like 60,000 people, like average, yeah.
You said 60,000.
Yeah. Yesterday, like highest was 50 or like 60,000 people watching the Apex.
That is insane, because when you picture 60,000 people, like you can't even count that, you know? So that is absolutely insane. And I got a question. What got you started in Apex? Like, why Apex?
Yeah, I used to play FPS games a lot, and then like the Apex is the very like speedy, and I really love that. So I think yeah, I used to broadcast like a professional baseball or like a professional soccer in Japan. So it's like I don't know, I just it's like I'm very comfortable like when I do commentary job on Apex.
I love that, man, and you absolutely kill it. My final question is, so the Japanese community is amazing, right? Anytime I have a tweet blow up, it's nothing but positivity, right? Why do you think the Japanese community is so positive? Because it's amazing, man. It's filled with love, and like, it's such a great addition to Apex.
I don't know, we have a lot of, you know, the otaku, like Japanese, like strong, enthusiastic fans. They they have like really love the like I don't know, like they're really like fan community is getting bigger and bigger.
I love it, man. Well, it's amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Great to meet you, my man. Keep killing it, all right? And that's all we got.
Well, that's super interesting. Always getting all the good information from the people around the stadium. So much cool things going on, so thank you, peeps, for checking into that. But for those of our viewers that are here in the UK watching from home, we'd like to welcome you back as we get ready for match number 3, because we have identified that there were some issues with some Twitch servers around the world that could affect your local region. If that does happen to you at home, please switch to YouTube, as YouTube is currently unaffected by this situation. And now with that out of the way, guys, let's start thinking about match number 3. We've so far had 2 separate winners, Pulverex, Dark Zero, and with our final match on Storm Point up and coming, Dia, anything could happen, but for those teams that found themselves on the bubble, what do we need to do here, obviously?
The important thing to remember about Storm Point is actually something that we saw Dark Zero and Optic do, and that is that your rotations are much more easily punished because when they're late, you have so much more ground to cover and so many less actual building to play. It's very difficult to share space in a place like Storm Point. And if you are a team that's perhaps struggling during the course of these matches, during the course of groups on Storm Point, there's no better way to solve that problem than by rotating in early, importantly, with a composition that you feel can play things out from a quick rotation. Perhaps you pull out a Geo and go with Newcastle Watson for the extra shields, whatever it is, because territory is one of the most important things, and then being active from that territory so that other people can't just land on you, as Geo did.
We think back, that used to be a really favored legend composition historically. Yeah. I know 100 Thieves at one point was even playing that, and a few others. So it's really cool that Geo is like, okay, so it's group stages. Maybe we're just going to test some things out for tomorrow's bracket stages. Similarly, if they've already made terms of the fact that it's anything goes, we have to give it our all here in the group stages, or we're going to be fighting our way through the elimination round, because that's what matters, right? No one goes home after today, right? It's for tomorrow. That is that risk. But as our teams start to lock in their legends, we see reps on Bangalore. And honestly, that is one of the most refreshing things that I've seen here post-Split 2 playoffs is no more Seer, reps not having to insta-lock Seer on TSM and getting to kind of spread his wingspan and, you know, dabble in some other legends.
You like his fuse, don't you?
I do like his fuse. Reps' fuse, honestly, Zero's fuse is crazy as well, but I know, right? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, the way that Fuse is played by some of the best teams in the world, it makes you feel like, it makes you wonder why this guy wasn't meta for ages. But Fuse, not something that we're going to see a whole lot of, at least on this map. Once we transition over to World's Edge in a couple minutes, that's when you'll get to find it out. We've got our dropship going through. This time we're starting off in the northeast, which actually means that Alliance get a really quick drop. And importantly, GO managed to do that as well, since they have swapped over to High Point recently. This will be important for them with, as a Newcastle Watson team, an early rotation could mean the difference between a 15th place finish and a 3rd place finish.
Well, I guess it all depends on where that zone is going to pull. And with Alliance not having to even take a gravity cannon to get up to Lightning Rod, for once having the easiest route, think of that. They'll be able to finish the IMC Armory. They'll be able to prioritize their looting path and maybe even hit some crafting and not be 2 minutes late towards that next zone.
And they'll know where the next zone is as well. It's such a good landing for Alliance, and in a lobby where they absolutely need it. One of our teams that does need to put up a lot of points to live up to the expectations they set for their fans.
As that zone comes in, meanwhile, Dojo hitting those weapon crates. I couldn't have predicted a better game for Alliance.
How lucky can you be?
This is it. This is everything that Alliance needed, right? They were slowly getting better and better each series. Obviously, starting off the first group series match with Mandy as a sub. Effect arriving at such a late hour. Just needed some little time to brush up, shake off the land nerves, because everyone kept talking about how, you know, nervous and not necessarily Effect, because that guy's probably locked in, ready to like one-clip people.
You think Effect has ice in his veins?
I 100% think Effect
he seems so sweet. That's the difficulty with me, you know? Like, to have ice in your veins, I feel like you would be naturally colder, but Maybe that's just something, because I don't have it, I can't recognize it.
It's true. I definitely don't have it, and that's why I'm here in the booth watching the people that do have it have all the skill out here, duking it out, playing with their hearts on the line. And Fnatic coming into the third map in only 2 points. This is actually going to be nice for them because you think about their rotation. TSM at the wall had ring console, so you know they're going to immediately scan that and hit for a quick rotation, which should enact Fnatic to be able to rotate out of North Pad, grab the ring console information as well, and prioritize their specific approach to the next zone.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about being a seasoned roster in Apex Legends is that, I mean, we can look at the map and know that TSM has moved on, but Fnatic being able to identify that just because of the way the ring is pulling, that's likely happened, means so much more and says so much more about their game sense, their skill, and their tenure in this title. Now, they've still got a ways to go as we move further up north, and that's where things can be a little bit problematic because a lot of teams are landing and setting themselves up at high point, one of the more common endings to rings like these.
Honestly, high point zones are some of my most favorite that I've ever witnessed. They can get really chaotic, and you can see GO just trying to navigate, fencing off the underground where MDY White has just elected to play. And I think that's going to be a strong position for them, especially knowing that they have a team on top of them. You don't really want to over-peak out, but as more teams start to filter their way through this, GO are going to look for that preferred positioning, with this being their drop spot now.
And the thing is that the place specifically that GO have chosen to play is a little bit more reliant on the ring pulling to a finish that's closer to Lightning Rod, but given where the zone is touching, right near the top of our screens, you can tell that it's going to favor that side. There's more playable space on that side of the zone, and GO predict that, recognize what's going on with the ring algorithm, and I think make an appropriate decision, one that's a little bit more high percentage than squads that'll set themselves up on the opposite end of high point, a little further out towards the west.
This is so crazy to me, seeing TSM choose this building and not the one further into where the zones actually don't touch in high point, because you think back to the turning point of their season back in the Split 2 regular season, that building was what won them the high point zone, where they threw down at least, I think it was like 19 eliminations from that rooftop. So TSM are no stranger to zones that end in high point, and in fact have found so much success.
They will be having, as we said, Fnatic rotate up right behind them. Fnatic stuck with the job of making sure that no team is able to make their way up late from wall or even through the Prowler caves right next door. At this point, they should be able to farm some kills from teams that rotate in late, like, say, the Dojo, who are making their way in now, Optic Gaming and Enterforce 36, who should all be moving through the wall or adjacent areas. On the other end, Alliance have interestingly chosen not to move. They've sat over by Lightning Rod, and they've got plenty of time to set up, and may very well have to deal with complexities rotation out that could be a little bit wider, as they've chosen to take high ground outside of high point, which is a silly sentence, but one that's accurate.
To be fair, I actually really like Alliance's positioning. And you think about some of the end game zone pulls that we've seen where you would assume they're going to pull into high point, but they're actually maybe going to pull straight to the Prowler Den where Alliance is. We do have endings here and multiple of them. So if they are anticipating that it could pull back this way, they would essentially have open season on half the lobby.
And for that very reason, Yuki's going to get a lot of value out of having a marksman weapon, because there's so much open ground in front of them, because they are playing the slightly lower percentage that it goes over towards them. If it does, they're going to get a lot of value out of marksman weapons, and if it doesn't, they're still going to get an Evo or two. So worst case scenario, you are still benefiting. Dark Zero, however, they're not. Their early rotation has put them out in the open. There are no buildings left, and this early move that they had last game has not resulted in the same position or the same safety as they had previously. Go Next do push up on them, now trying to retreat, find themselves face to face with another squad, and now they're trapped between a rock and a hard place.
Dark Zero did rotate at least a minute faster than Optic Gaming, who comes out of down B, so they were able to beat Optic towards this zone, but will likely be punished by it, not able to grab a lot of materials. We saw Jen Burton was running low on light ammo and being stuck amongst all of the teams. They're going to need to pick an efficient but easier fight than necessary so they can grab the loot from that and carry on. But it's not going to be easy when you've got Yuki looking like a Grim Reaper with a triple take, holding down every angle possible.
At least he's fair. At least he's shoots at everyone. He's not just harassing one team. It is everybody who's in his line of sight. And that's with a 2x as well. Surprisingly accurate with the triple take at these ranges. Now, for the meanwhile, Dojo are setting up. We still got plenty more squads and adaptations to zone that need to occur. Let's go ahead and bring up the map soon, because that's where it's going to be really important to note that Alliance have actually made the big brain play that you were talking about.
That next zone is actually going to pull directly towards Alliance. So think of that mass exodus of all of the teams that favored High Point. That's the gamble when you don't have that next zone information. But Alliance, they took the risk, knowing that Lightning Rod has been their POI for so long. But for teams like Oxygen Esports, who needed a very strong performance here, rotating out of Barometer on Stormpoint, a Lightning Rod zone is their worst nightmare.
And not everyone has this information yet. Oxygen, in fact, are still fighting teams that, oh my lord, are trying to make their way through and into High Point. We'll see how this fight turns out, and then we'll start considering what the fate of the other teams are.
Oxygen Esports still trying to inch ever so closely towards that zone. Time is of the essence, ammo is of the essence, and Aiden looking to make every bullet count, trying to navigate the doorway, catching teammates off guard. He was about to try to shoot him in the back, but not before. Complexity was able to put suppressive fire, but Vayne taking to the skies, jumping around. That guy is just dancing throughout the building.
Aiden gets chased, and suddenly the hunter becomes the hunted. Plenty of damage on Cody, the last member of Complexity. And that's another squad taken down. In fact, it's our first of this game as Oxygen retain their highest of high grounds on Stormpoint. Now we have to turn our attention to the teams that will very soon be finding out that the High Point that they invested in so heavily is no longer the place to be.
Dark Zero usually has at least 2 evacuation towers, and the likelihood of them going out here now would be so strong if they can gather where that is going to happen, right? They'll throw down an evac tower, maybe a grab lift and jump halfway up it and try to rotate maybe towards somewhere that could have been free. But for the teams that are late arriving, they're going to have a completely free eastern side of that next zone.
Disguise start pushing up on Sentinels in front of them. Both these teams with a late rotate, both hoping to frag out, and a quick wall bounce from Lou gets him out of dodge. Before Bangalore really becomes a problem. Does land a little bit of damage and pushes Disguised back, but it's up to Sentinels to take that space and do with it what they will. What they've chosen to do is retreat on the other side of this engagement.
I like this though, because you think of the north side of Stormpoint being the highest elevation on the map, and this climb to Thunderwatch is atrocious. Should they not work their way up and start getting into cover now, they run the risk of Disguise pushing in on them, but they're actually going to hit a Valcolt, which necessarily won't go as far, but this will give them the best chance to get around Sentinels and find that cover closer to the inside of Thunderwatch.
I like that you mentioned that it doesn't go as far, because it's a really important point when considering how Sentinels will react to this play. They get a good chunk on Senox, but very quickly, it's a race up this hill. It's a lot like the race that we saw between Oxygen and Dark Zero, but this time it's on foot, and one that's a whole lot closer from both sides. Checking across the way, Dupe isn't going to get shot in the side, but both teams will arrive to Thunderwatch at around the same time, and now it becomes a much closer quarters fight.
The fact that Thunderwatch was even free at this point in the game just goes to show you how many teams had moved into High Point. The fact that no one was even trying to play Thunderwatch.
Optic towards the low ground are holding out Pulverex, trying to force them, or rather, I think it's Aurora now, trying to force them to go into command center. It's going to end up working out for them. At this point, it's more about buying space than trying to truly influence the pathing of another team. It doesn't matter if you're mirrored right now. What matters is by how much distance you are. So Optic are going to leave this one. Not going to be checking behind them too often. What they're fortunately going to discover is that the positions right in front of them, right uphill, are occupied. And even an evac tower will not help you entirely. It'll be a band-aid on a bigger problem.
You have to start to think about Optic's rotation, right? With 2 people in Thunderwatch, Disguise and Sentinels coexisting. Yes, you could try to play the underneath of Thunderwatch, but you run the risk of people shooting at you from the side. Knowing that Pulverex was able to walk straight in towards that next zone, knowing they have crypto, they're going to be constantly scouting with the drone itself, looking for someone that may decide to wrap around their their side as well.
The best part of this is that, as you say, they've identified that their biggest threat will come from the south. So few teams will be able to approach their position from high point because you have to go through Alliance and Dark Zero in order to do so. And it's really not worth it. Pulverex have a fine position, but not one that's worth risking your life for. So instead, they will be focused entirely towards the south side. This next ring won't close it up off behind them, but the one following it will. What this next ring will do is push MDY White out into the open.
We're about to lose half the teams of this lobby here as this circle starts to close. The fact that there's 19, it is all about how are you going to make it out into the open, out in the field of Prowlers, as you can see, Realize hitting the rotation, flying over Thunderwatch. Which rock will they elect to play? With no legends like Watson to be able to fence off, we just have the Catalyst, and they're probably going to have to really utilize that Dark Veil. So prioritizing ultimate accelerants, but that one will not get them back, so it's 62%.
Realize gonna have to play the slow game. They've got a little bit of time to do it, and a lot of squads stuck in a traffic jam at their back. Disguised, one of those teams that are looking to farm up a few kills, and in that way, gather a few more points for the upcoming map. Disguised have a great position with high ground, not a whole lot of teams can threaten them, so it is just profit that they can accrue for now. The real concern coming in the next zone, where unfortunately Dojo will not be participating.
Enterforce 36 was the first team to go out of that mass exodus, and we can see it is going to pull ever so further towards Alliance, but Dark Zero was able to take an early exit to MDY White, fighting for their life against Gombreo Tosan, the first two teams that made it towards High Point. This is their drop spot, and Mingyu will fall at the hands of Zhonghee, Juzna and Co, and Geo, trying to hit a quick reset before they have to make their way out. But TSM, they left their building. They want to make sure that their backs are clear before they hit the rotation.
Shield swap from Imperial Hal keeps him in the fight, and Reps keeps the damage applied. Ganbareo Tosan take out one team, but cannot stand in the face of TSM.
We're going to have all the teams looking to keep on moving forward. Oxygen Esports set their sights on Fnatic, needing every one of these eliminations, currently sitting on 7 total points in the series. They need to make it happen, but one member of Fnatic was able to get out, Yuka just in the corner, and that's on Reeds for being Bloodhound and no longer a Seer. I know Coach Psycho was looking to make that transition to allow for a more aggressive comp, but now everyone gets to survive a little bit.
And this game has been wonderful from Oxygen so far. They've owned the high ground. This next zone close, however, with just 12 seconds left, is going to be very punishing to them. And of course, to Disguise. Remember, Pulverex are going to be holding out towards the eastern side where Sentinels are looking to push up, but Disguise have to take a Valcult, and a Valcult into where?
I don't know. Let's jump in with a listen and see what's about to happen.
Here? Yeah, we need to get there. We need to get there. The team right here, though. Split off of me. Just land. I'm a fucking wall. Land right here. Remember, the duo is right here. Smoke our feet. I'm trying to right away. Fucking smoke our feet. Yeah, I'm trying to. We're good. Just. You can. I'm batting. My only bat. Drop me a bat, Lou. Yeah, I got you, brother. I got you. Right here. We need to watch this walk out. We need to watch this walk out. I'm watching right now. I don't see anybody yet. Just chill. Just stabilize. We don't have to do anything right now. They're walking up over here. Oh, it's that zone. White shooter rising. On the right, we gotta focus this, guys. Okay, good. We got bang out there. Do you want to bang out back? Yeah, chill. Do I bang out? Safe on me. Safe here. Do you want me to bang out? No. Save it. Wall's about to go down, Lou. Be careful. Yeah, so much KP over here. We should bang out. You want me to bang out? I think bang out it. Okay, bang out it. Look for the KP. Yeah, look for the KP. There's gonna be on time. We're on the other side of the nest. 3 fucking Bengals, bro. Right here, take him right here. Watch the wall right there. Get it. Hit him right there. We can't do anything. Look at zone. Oh, look at him. They're running over there. Oh shit, I have no energy. Kill this one. Main cracked. What should it be? What should we do about this? I need heavy. I don't have any heavy. Here, I dropped your 40 right here. Look at these guys. I think we can walk up and just play like... Yeah, wait for my wall. There's a team in lightning round. Can we take the squad? We take the building, bro. No, I'm a wall. Alright, just follow dude. We just follow dude. I have 2 cells, 1 bad. Yeah, I have 1 bat. Here, 2 cells.
Yeah, I have 1 bat, 1 cell.
I have 1 hemlock clip as well. Lou, take this. Just get to me and click.
Well, Disguised are safe for now, but it looks like Lou just needs some energy. Meanwhile, Dark Zero were able to take out TSM and move ever so closely towards that next zone. Having that building and everyone needing to push towards them is going to give them the opportunity to rack up so many eliminations. But in the end, Alliance is poised for perfection.
They are the home court advantage team. Alliance should win this game 10 out of 10 times. It's the fundamentals of Apex Legends. Your POI should be your strongest point. And yet, with Dark Zero right ahead of them, can you actually challenge this squad that has achieved so much and that has slaughtered in group stage? Pulverex is certainly trying to contest the high ground, not against Dark Zero, but they're not exactly succeeding either as they're quickly put down by Sentinels. Pulverex are pushed right back down, but the first knock belongs to them, and Koifel, on very little HP, could still be swung on and taken out.
Well, the issue is FaZe is just above them, firing
Sentinels
down at
are
Sentinels.
gone.
They're getting sandwiched, and just like that, they will be eliminated. Disguise are rotating into the mix. This is going to be Oxygen, and they're going to fall at the hands of a mix of all the teams. Now, Disguised, Dark Zero, still kind of coexisting in this building prior to having to move, so we're looking towards where that zone is going to pull from, because where Alliance is situated, they have to cross a bridge to get across. Pulverex, who were able to walk in just from the most southeastern side of the zone for free earlier on, basically gifted that ability to stay safe with just a little bit of cover.
A win here, though, for Alliance would be such a big boon, and they're so close to achieving it. Statistically, they should achieve it, and it could push them into the winner's bracket, even after a difficult group stage so far. But you have to overcome DZ, who have been unmoving even after they had to make a difficult rotation in. How do you even unseat this squad who now has no lines of sight onto them and who knows that there is one team on this bridge, Alliance, who they can bully?
They need to get DZ off the high ground because Jen Burton is holding angles impeccably, putting so much pressure on them. Even though they have a Trident for cover, even though they have that supply bin, Hack is on the Bangalore, is only going to have at most 2 smokes to utilize, so they'll be able to keep trying to time them, but I think they're going to start moving. But F-Chan and co, they are the first that have to move towards the building.
Now I will say Pulverex actually have a really nice spot because of the small amount of cover that's going to be afforded to them at the boxes that Alliance are running towards. This is the fight that'll mean a game, but Alliance lose Hackies before it even starts. Yuki's not able to play, has to run right into Disguise, and Alliance are falling apart.
Yeah, but this is all about Dupe right now. Dupe, who was recently trying to get into this more, was coaching for a little bit, puts together this team, gets signed by Disguise,
Dark
and
Zero
has made it towards champs. We are looking for a winner's bracket run for them.
Oh my God.
All of the Dark Veils being expended, everyone dropping them. Alliances will fall first, and Pulverex still utilizing the cross-section of theirs and are maintaining the boxes and undercover.
We are drawing out hieroglyphs with these Dark Veils, but Dark Zero takes no prisoners. Alliance go down. Top 3 is theirs. Disguise walk up on Dark Zero, take them out, and it's just Pulverex in the way. Pulverex, who could find another win on Storm Point. Shunmi goes down, but Disguise go out first, and Pulverex take their second win.
They needed that second win coming into this series in 29th place. We were talking about would that first win with 6 eliminations be enough, but they carried that momentum forward. Look at Pulverex, so pleased with that performance, and I am pleased as well.
What an impeccable play from Pulverex, and what a stunning course of Storm Point, just in the nick of time, kicking themselves into high gear. This is a team that could contest in the finals, given how they've played 2 of the zones of the 3 that we've seen so far.
Look, all I gotta say is I'm really loving all the crypto plays that we're seeing throughout Group Series, and honestly, Ascend looked strong earlier. Now Pulverex says, all right, I'm gonna stand up for the crypto players, but hey, Analyst Desk, I'm curious to see what you've got to say about Pulverex.
Not much to say. They've been doing it without talking. They've been talking the way that it matters in games. 2 out of 3. That is a pretty good record for any Apex I've ever played in terms of win rate, and Pulverex continue on what has been a Cinderella story from the very beginning of a team that's been a fan favorite, has yet to cross that finals threshold and make sure that they have a chance at the end of the day. But I think that this could be a starting point, Genome. And again, it's just nice to see Pulverex having their moment in the sun. They're always a team that represents APAC so well, and also it just gives us good vibes whenever they're playing.
Yeah, they are. It doesn't matter how many of them are there. They will absolutely be putting their whole heart into it. And, you know, sometimes group stage, it can just be a little bit of a warm-up in some ways, right? Or just a chance to get things right, to work through any issues the team has got, and get you ready for when it matters, for when the money's on the line.
One of the things they're so good about is positioning and getting into those top fives, like Gino mentioned, as 2 or as 3. And they're also great at making us smile. But one thing I want to talk about is a little bit how they did it. And let's go to Graceful for our final zone and recap how Pulverex was able to take their second game out of 3. As we play that, walk me through what you saw. A lot of Catalyst play, and obviously Pulverex taking on a good fight against Disguised.
So the absolute biggest thing that we all take notice of is that Alliance should win the game. They put themselves in a bad spot. Pulverex took the best spot, in my opinion. The only thing that most teams aren't disciplined. Pulverex, however, is a different team. They held that wall super well. They knew the play from Alliance. There was only one play they could do. They denied that by immediately peeking the wall so that Alliance couldn't just walk to the short wall. You're going to see it right here soon. You see the wall on the far right side right here? Where the wall is crossed, that's where they're aiming to get to. Those exact boxes that they're just holding. They're not even stepping up aggressively. They're just holding hands, playing their spot. Don't do anything too rash. We win this for free if we hold hands. And they're just super disciplined. The APAC teams so far today have been wow.
Yeah, and this is what you said in terms of mechanics, right? And macro, you were talking about how they work so well together as a unit earlier, APAC specifically.
Yes. So teams in general tend to have, especially when you play comps that aren't, like their comp specifically, as you can see, is really team-oriented. Like you can play more aggressive team comps like Bloodhound Bang, which is like everybody's trying to make a play and it's really hard to keep staying synergized. Like, you know, oh, I'm scanning something, oh, I smoked something, we need to swing this, and they're off timing. But when you play comps like this and they know what their role is on the team, amazing work staying together.
And if you're talking about making plays as well, there you can see Shunmi going past the Catalyst wall first, right? And in those end zones in the current meta, it is very important that your Catalyst player can make those plays because, of course, that is the one legend that can cross the opposing cat walls without encountering that stun.
Exactly, yeah.
Obviously, match 3 ended up in a Pulverex win, but a lot of teams in the mix as we take a look at a interesting great chart here as well. Ben, what are you seeing? Pulverex, Disguised, the team that's recently been signed. Welcome, Disguised Toast, to the esport of Apex Legends. Duplex, Lou, and Synox, not a bad squad to have with you. And also Dark Zero staying in the mix in top 3.
No, not at all here. Disguised, of course, getting their return. What feels like took a little bit longer than expected, but trust me, there's still 3 great matches to go here. Dark Zero, though, continuing to clutch at the heels of many. Walking away with 5K plus out of that game is nothing to shy away from, and they truly were the pressuring factor in this lobby, truly driving what occurred, even if they weren't walking away with that win.
It's hard to overstate how important it is and how impressive it is to continually get top 3, top 5s in these ever-changing lobbies, not just because of the skill level that is so high, but also the circumstances that you have to overcome, whether it is that early game where there's a lot of zone rotating teams fast, or those teams that like to play a little slower, going against new challenges. That is something Dark Zero has somehow found a way to overcome. First place yet again, Genome, but Pulverex with those 2 wins has found their way back into second. Bottom 10, though, have a conversation with me at least at something that you poke out here. Aurora, obviously, they've had some new swaps here. Fire Beavers formerly coming in and playing with them. Dojo, maybe expecting a little more. What's standing out to you so far?
Yeah, as the scoreboard gets taken away from me there. Yeah, look, my memory is telling me that there was a couple of teams there that obviously need to push a little bit further, right? Because obviously what we're worried about with some of those teams in the bottom 10 there, Rain Day, is that they're not going to make it through to the winners bracket final, right? And that's where the overall scoreboard comes in.
And that too is kind of where you start to run out of time. And we don't want to say anything in terms of the tournament because you still have tomorrow, even if you are in the losers, or excuse me, the elimination bracket 1, or if you're in the winners final. finals, Elimination Bracket 1 starts to get scary. That's when you have to really maybe consider changing a lineup, changing a drop zone, because you know you could be going home if you don't get it right. And that's where you sometimes don't want to be, because that means you can't practice stuff that when you're winning, you don't have to change, right? You can basically continue to do what is working for you. One thing I do want to talk about in terms of changing, though, Graceful, you've teed up something that these players didn't necessarily decide, the game did, in terms of changes in our legend compositions. Walk me through what has happened so far between Split 2 just a month and a half ago in our playoffs, and now in terms of how the game has changed as far as legends.
So Split 2 in general, Seer was very strong, insanely strong. Let's even talk about Seer in general, is that he just brought so much to the team that they just played him regardless, because you have 30 seconds wall hack, you have HP knowledge as well, you cancel stuff as well. He was just so oppressive that you had to pick him. If not, you could actually lose a fight just by not having him on the team, right? Yeah. You can see the pick rate right here as well. Seer's pick rate was sky high, and this season now it's super low, right? Bangalore and Horizon, however, stays super viable due to the fact that almost the same as Seer, but not as oppressive, brings so much to the team. Bang can frag, she can play slow with her ult, she can, you know, help with macro due to smokes, she has everything, right? Horizon brings a completely different thing that no other Legends has, is that she brings verticality to teams. And that's that's the biggest reason why people pick her. Sure, her passive is god tier for fighting, and she's just a good solid fragger, but the verticality, so many zones end where one good option opens up, like on a ceiling due to a bang ult, which is why you play her with bang as well. You just bang ult, they are forced to drop off or rotate away because you will die. If you get 3-man stunned, you're just dead on 3-man Horizon team lands on you, you're just immediately dead. And
that was Split 2.
So now, looking into this season here, we see Catalyst Bangalore Horizon. Once again, Bangalore Horizon, so strong. Catalyst just adds on to that. Now, instead of just being oppressive in fighting due to Seer, now we're adding the defensive capabilities to the characters, and also more macro due to wall. But Catalyst actually opens up the, if you get a spot, you can play this comp on edge, you can play this comp in zone, you can play anywhere, because you can bunker down, you can play edge, you can do everything. It's just so viable. And speaking of that, we also see more legends here, such as Bloodhound for offensive comps, Fuse, Crypto, Newcastle, Gibby. Genome, would you want to take a head on Fuse for me, maybe? Why do we see more of Fuse, specifically tied to maybe specific maps?
Yeah, like that is definitely getting more play on World's Edge right now. How I'm viewing him at the moment, he's almost like a long-range caustic, right? In the way that he annoys teams, in the way that his utility is useful, because we do see a lot more building end zones in World's Edge, and so the knuckle clusters just come out so annoying at you know, poking you into corners, doing damage, stealing those shield cells away from you.
I gotta ask, Graceful, did you ask him about Fuse because he's Australian? I mean, is that why you threw straight to him? You just skipped Ben for some reason.
I swear to God,
I mean, come on. I mean, really? Okay, I mean, okay. I don't want to have that on this desk. Okay? Everybody has parity here. All jokes aside, I think obviously when you look at these teams, you've seen also Crypto drop a little bit to become a little more niche. 15% in Split 2, now down to 7%. We've seen Bloodhound join the fray, who was completely unplayed, and that's been something that I think teams have figured out in this wiggle room time. But as we settle into what is going on for the rest of the tournament, I think you will see that these squads, these legend choices become even more refined and settled in. So keep watching, and we will define this meta even more over these next 3 days. But of course, one thing that's already been defined is my favorite segment of the day. You know what I'm talking about. It's WD Black, what's in your pack? And today, Zephyr, I'm gonna lean in with you because this one, you just gotta talk about it when you see it. It's the Kraber. Walk us through what this weapon brings to Apex.
Whether it's the pressure of a single shot alone, or a quick 360 or 720 skill shot, the Kraber is something like no other. The pressure that this, and I would say line of sight, brings to the table is something that is unparalleled to any other weapon in the game. As a heirloom option, it has now found itself more commonly, especially in the early game, with changes we saw just a few seasons ago, which means the threat is always lurking, and especially with new skirmishers also joining the pack, it lets everybody know that that Kraber is in action.
One of my favorite things to see in action, and you got to see that a little earlier, Gino. That clip's been going viral already.
Mate, that was one of the best moments of my casting career. I know it was one of MT's favorite moments probably in his career. He was in disbelief, but sometimes it's not even just the ammo, it's the sound ringing out. That's how much fear it will put in
the minds of your opponents.
Just hearing the sound of a Kraber, we've all been there as well. And so we'll continue to see how these weapons, how these legends affect the remaining 3 games. Remember, we've only got 3 more before we have set up our elimination brackets and our winners brackets tomorrow. So don't go anywhere. Of course, if you want to keep in touch with everything we've got going on Apex Legends-wise, make sure to follow us on X, I guess, Twitter, whatever you want to call it at this point. The one that we all use to talk about stuff esports-wise at Play Apex Esports. That's right, of course, Play Apex on Twitch and, of course, on YouTube. What a phenomenal day we have going on. We are heading into our next and our final 3 games. We are switching maps, and I believe our casters are ready for us as well. So let's kick it off. It's Dan Gaskin. It's Mark Hatcher. They're ready to end the day strong.
We are so ready to get this going, and it is going to be not just the end of the day, but the end of group play as well. Tomorrow is where bracket play kicks off, but before we get there, Dan, we're going to find out which side of the bracket these teams are going to be in.
Yeah, thankfully, I've got lots of mathematicians behind the scenes who are helping me keep everything updated, but I can tell you about 15 teams are locked in to the winners bracket, which would leave only 5 places remaining. And remember, we were talking about the Pioneers watching on. They're in 20th position at the moment on 91 points, so the cutoff may be around there. So that's very scary for the Pioneers watching on right now.
Well, this is going to be where we're having the action take place. It's been the end of Storm Point, and now we move over to World's Edge. And if you're a Pulverex fan, you're probably hoping we play Storm Point until the end of time. 2 wins for them. Dark Zero, of course, getting their customary win, as you would expect from one of the best in the world. But World's Edge certainly poses a different proposition for this team.
It does, but it's great news for Pulverex, who at the Split 2 playoffs performed far better on World's Edge. So now they're going to arguably one of their better maps. Then maybe Pulverex can just get over the line here, because I can tell you, Pulverex are currently tied with Pioneers on 91 points. The teams that we're looking at, those bubble teams, we're looking at the likes of Pulverex, 100 Thieves, Dojo. These guys are around the kind of 15th to 18th at the moment, but the teams that are below them, they're going to be trying to overtake them. Go Next, Fnatic, FaZe, Northeption, Tom, Young, Kung, and Alliance, all trying to break into that top 20.
Well, you can see the Hall of Champions in front of you. The question is, when we get to Sunday evening, who is going to be the champion of the ALGS Championships? We're going to find out who's going to be going to which side of the bracket, who's going to be the winners, who's going to be in the elimination. Taking a look at our drops on World's Edge, Dan, what do you like the look of?
Well, there's something I don't like the look of, and that's Dojo versus Alliance. I was saying that Alliance are just about there. They're on 90 points at the moment, but that's probably a better spot than Dojo find themselves in, who are just a little bit further behind. Actually, sorry, they're a little bit further ahead. They are on 93, so both of our 2 bubble teams are going to be competing against each other on drop, and that will naturally rip points away from one of them.
That's somewhat terrifying, to be honest, for both of those teams. Alliance who have been through it, Mandy doing his job and filling in beautifully for them yesterday, but now the young effect is back, and you have to question if he's going to be able to get back on the lineup and do what he does best, send them through to the winner's side of the bracket. Sentinels, another team to keep an eye on here, Dan, as well as FaZe. Like you mentioned, they need a couple more games to solidify their position in that winner's side. Well, match 4 is live here in Birmingham. It's time to get underway.
Time to get those legends selected and see if anyone's going to go for anything out of the blue, but I think at this point, it's crunch time. This is when you need to be playing your best composition possible. However, you might notice in the top left of your screen, Dark Zero are feeling a little bit confident, and they're going to be going for something a little bit different. I see a Revenant on my screen.
And of course it's Zero who's going to be playing on Revenant by the looks of things. We'll have to get confirmation when we get in game if that is going to be the case. That certainly throws somewhat of a spanner in the works, but all eyes understandably, as we see the teams coming out of the dropship here, Dan, are going to be on thermal station. Are we going to see Alliance and Dojo duking it out for that spot?
So Alliance on 90 points, Dojo on 93, and if we believe that the cutoff may be around 98, I think is where Jay Lings are, then this is going to be a situation where one of these teams has to make sure they can bully the other enough just to get that extra 5 points or so to take them over the line.
Both teams out of the dropship. Keep my eyes fixed on our map overhead we have in front of us to see if that contest is going to be going down. And of course 36 is going to be going over to the tree and might even think about a little third party if they get their loot just in time. But looking elsewhere, yes indeed, we are going to have the contest going down. It's Alliance versus the Dojo, and Hackis and Effect both down to barely barely any HP.
Barely any at all, as now Hackers is going to go down. It's going to be Yuki in effect against the entire Dojo roster, and this could be a fight that potentially sends Dojo into the winner's bracket, really, with how many points they've already been able to get. But enemy's already taken a lot of damage here.
Does manage to get the spikes down though. That's going to be a problem for whoever's inside. And Alliance at the moment just hoping for a gun, and they're not even going to be able to get one of those by the looks of things. Yuki going to fall as well. One more player to go to delete Alliance from what has been their home for so long, and Design Force hungry. Alliance eliminated, and the Dojo stand up and let them know.
I mean, that puts Dojo to 96 points, one behind 100 Thieves, and 100 Thieves and Jay Lings, they're two teams that are kind of watching on saying, have we done enough? Are we going to be able to be in that winner's bracket? Elsewhere, Optic Gaming also in a fight down towards Stacks, and it looks like they're going to win their contest against Gambare Artisan. So Optic also holding strong, and they are one of those teams who currently hold one of those winner bracket spots. I mean, they were looking good coming into this. 89 points before they even started this series, and you can see 24 they've been able to put down after the 3 Storm Point matches.
Well, this is where we're going. You can see the circle. You also get a little bit of a ring console information to show us where we're going to be going. And for teams like Sentinels, we mentioned, who really need to kind of solidify a position with a good game, and the same can be said for FaZe. This is a great zone for them. That high ground on the eastern side of the zone going to be so vital to hold down.
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough one. Like Dojo winning that fight, but now you've got to try and make your way all the way to the northeast side, and you've got to go through quite a few heavy hitters to get there. Dark Zero are going to be moving fast though from Harvester, so perhaps they're not going to be too much of a worry. You might catch a few teams who are starting to get a little bit desperate now that might start playing a little bit more risky, potentially going for more KP, recognizing that if they just try and play placements, it could just be a little bit too difficult with some of the heavy hitters in this lobby.
Well, here is a look at Epicenter, or just outside of it. One of those teams who are going to be making their rotate and playing for this eastern side, and some of that high ground is going to be FaZe. Complexity at the moment kind of stuck in a little bit of an in-between situation, caught in their rotate. This truck is probably going to be good for the long term, but we all know at this point how hard it is to hold down this truck, especially with so many fuses in the lobby as well.
Yeah, it was hard enough back in the day before Fuse was even involved, but now with Fuse being so heavy in the meta, you're just going to get bombarded throughout. So Sentinels, try as they might, we'll have to see how it goes down, but as we can see, 26 points on the board for them. They've already secured a winner's bracket spot as well with their performance, so as long as they've been doing the math in the back, they should be feeling very confident going into World's Edge.
Fnatic making their rotate as well. A bit of a quiet tournament for Fnatic so far. Somewhat of a surprise to see them as low as they are, and it's looking like potentially an elimination bracket run for them after their strong performance of the Split 2 playoffs. But we know the talent on that team. We know they'll be able to put it together. You would imagine they'll be making a long run and trying to get back in that finals themselves. TSM, let's take a look at them. They do have ring console information, and you can see at the moment they're just going to be set up outside of Overlook, playing the height on this tower, holding anyone out who's trying to rotate behind.
Of course, TSM already qualified into that winner's bracket with the points they were able to accrue even before this series started, but this is a chance to play in a, well, what is a very competitive scrim for them in a way against the best teams in the world, and making sure they can stay on top. TSM don't just want to coast through to the winner's bracket, they want to dominate into that winner's bracket so they can show why they believe they are the best team in the world still.
Two teams who are surrounding the team that Hal's looking at in that building. That is going to be FaZe. Behind them is going to be Go Next Esports. Also making their rotate to Overlook at the moment is going to be Disguise. You can see them just at the top of your screen right now as we see the Overlook of the POI itself and where all these teams are trying to fight for position. Elsewhere, realize they're over at Landslide, completely out of it at the moment, but Tom Young Kung, they're in Skyhook. A little bit of a fight going down here with Aurora.
Yeah, and they're closing in on having a real shot at that winner's bracket as well. With how they've been playing and how the points have been going, they're projected to be in that winners. And just adding an extra bit of KP will increase their chances even more so. So a couple of early fights, a few contests going down, but this is really important that everyone is just locked in going into World's Edge, because there are still squads that could leapfrog you, even if you might be projected to get into that winner's bracket. You mentioned a team like Fnatic, for example, even though they are very far behind, a couple of wins, and suddenly they could be up there and snatching one of those spots off you.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to think that this is almost over, right? But there's 3 more games, and we know how many points you can accrue. And it wouldn't surprise me to see in that last game someone make a late run and steal away one of those winner's bracket spots, and on the other side, somebody lose out on it. Tom Young Kung trying to hold off Aurora, who are going for that banner at the moment, and I'm pretty sure that they got it. The question is, can they get the res and get back to a 3, or is this going to be the end of the game for them? 9 Impulse will go down. He will be finished off here as well, and Tom Young-Kung, once again, just on top in this fight.
Yeah, and they've really impressed me throughout this tournament. Right on day one, we saw a couple of end circles that they were involved with, and they were a real threat in the lobby. And they show that they are going to be a real dominant force as we move forward further into the bracket, and they should be good to get into that winner's bracket as well. Now they can just hold up here at Skyhook, maybe look for that final player, but eventually they will continue their journey over towards Epicenter and further.
Aurora's still alive in the lobby. It was Orain who managed to get away. Should be able to get back and maybe secure the banners, unless Tom Young-Kung want to just camp those for a few more moments to see if they can pick up that extra KP, or certainly make sure that Aurora aren't a threat to them on their rotate by letting them back into the game. Elsewhere, as you can see on the map overhead, right in the northern side around Survey Camp, you have Fnatic spread pretty wide at the moment, just controlling multiple positions. Realize making their move through Epicenter as well. A little bit of maybe a fight starting to break out inside of Fragment, you can see between Enter Force 36 and Pulverex, who, like I said, would maybe wish that World's Edge looked a lot more like Stormpoint after their previous performance in the 3 games, but Fnatic, I feel like pressure on their shoulders here in these 3 games down.
Yeah, and they're split at the moment. Fnatic, only a 2 here. Their final player is over towards Survey Camp, so they have to be very careful that they don't get involved in an engagement too soon. Otherwise, they might just be run up on. But I think what they're doing is using that 3rd player as kind of a scout to ensure that they own this northern side of the circle, and they're not going to be pressed by anyone arriving through the ring. You saw when we had the map overhead as well, a few teams kind of banking over towards the east, closer to Overlook, but on the northern side of that circle that was coming up. And there's going to be a lot of open ground in this final circle, which is not going to be able to be held in the early stages. And that's going to mean we're going to lose a lot of teams kind of round 4-ish, when they're trying to break their way in and they're being contested by all the guys that have already found space. So expect there to be a lot of action in the kill feed once we do get there, but for now, there is plenty of space to play.
Oxygen Esports on our screens at the moment. We've kind of talked about how the expectation for this team has shifted after their performance at the Split 2 playoffs, and we're going to have to see if they can adapt to that new pressure, that newfound expectation that's been put on their shoulders. A couple of good games here would maybe just restore a little bit of parity to what is expected of them. But they're going to have to deal with Enter Force 36 and Pulverex, who are going to be pretty close to them at the moment. Aiden's going to be hoping that Reed Scan's going to give them the information this building is clear. So for now, it will be safe. And it looks like they might be playing for a little bit of recon.
Yeah, Oxygen in the overall is on about 61 points at the moment. So that's 30 plus off of what we think would be the cutoff. And you know, it's achievable, but you've also got to do it whilst no one else is getting those points as well. So you're probably going to need about 40. I think if you're around the 100 mark, you're all but guaranteed to be in that winner's bracket. And that is achievable for Oxygen. But we heard what Jayhawk was saying on the desk earlier. Stormpoint is where they seem to thrive, but we're on World's Edge.
Well, here's a fight breaking out. And it is going to be Disguised who are finding the end of the vault from Verhulst. TSM clean them up so comfortably. And that Dark Veil was almost perfect there for him to just poke through Verhulst and get those kills on board.
Well, TSM fans back in the building. It's been allowed after the Dreamfire fans have dominated the crowd all day long, but it's great to hear some other chants. 10th place at the moment in this series are TSM, but they still hold one of the power positions in the overall standings. And they're in a good spot as well, over towards Overlook. They can hold this eastern side of the circle for quite some time. It's only Go Next who are kind of near them and around them. And you can see the pings that are happening. TSM very aware of how much space they have to cover at the moment, and they have to just apply pressure in the right areas, do damage to the right teams to ensure that they can continue to hold that spot.
Just looking at the kill feed there, you can see Reeds has gone down on Oxygen Esports. The question is, can they get the res? Should be able to, as the knock did come in from distance with that scout. Go Next, just playing down on this low ground at the moment, kind of trying to rotate underneath the position that TSM just took out Disguised from. But no targets as yet. Dark Zero, though, #1 next to their name at the moment. And I've got to say, Dan, coming into this tournament, understandably, a lot of talk about Dark Zero being the favorites to maybe take this event home. Well, their performance so far, they are backing up a lot of people's prediction.
I mean, even Dark Zero themselves said that they believe they were the favorites.
Zero will tell you who'll win anything.
Exactly, but even Jen Burton was saying, we feel like we're the favorites, although I'd probably rather be the underdog coming into the tournament because it does apply that extra little bit of pressure onto your shoulders, but it doesn't seem like it phases them. Dark Zero have been excellent so far this tournament, showing the same consistency we've seen for the past couple. But we'll have to see if it carries on into bracket play, because group stages is one thing, but when it gets to a pressure situation of bracket play, that's an entirely different scenario. Now, Circle, it's moving down. It's moving away from where TSM and Dark Zero were kind of thinking of, and does play into the hands perfectly, really, of Optic Gaming.
I was going to say, also, it plays into the hands of the Dojo, because Dojo were crafting on their way towards zone. They won that contest as well, and they know by playing this southern side of the zone, they're going to be on the slow side of it. Fnatic, though, they're on the opposite end of things. They have to take some fights and fight their way through the lobby. The team they're going up against right now is going to be MDY White, as Melzera is trying to get some damage down, but MDY White at the moment holding strong, but they don't have the shields really to contest unless Fnatic make a mistake here.
Well, they're getting aggressive, our MDY White. They full send it out, maybe to try and catch them off guard, but Fnatic were there waiting, ready. Yuka gets the first one, and MDY White looks like it's going to be all bad news for them as they get eliminated. Fnatic are able to hold strong, and in good timing as well, because round 3 about to close. So Fnatic, they held the northern side, and they are rewarded for their push, and they should be able to reset before anyone else gets involved.
Yeah, you saw that reps from distance there with the knuckle cluster managed to get her down as well, but not able to convert on it. The gold knockdown will certainly be good enough to get Fnatic back and ready to fight. Aurora are kind of hovering in the vicinity as well as we take a look at where we maybe expect this zone to be ending. Oxygen Esports, who are probably thinking, hey, this zone is going to be a very tough one for us to rotate into. With the shift that we've seen, I'm probably thinking and feeling a little bit more confident than they were a few moments ago.
Yeah, if they have that information from a ring console, then they'll be feeling very happy, but I'm not sure they will have been able to get one looking at their comp. So it would have just been a survey beacon they would have to work with from Reeds playing Bloodhound. But they are going to get aggressive now, get on top of this building, and you can see into the hunt they go as Reeds wants to be the leading character here and wants to get involved in the fight.
Aurora eliminated in the meantime, and here goes Reeds. Pops in, does that huge initial damage. The Arcstar he has to avoid. The spray is pretty good, but it's not ending this fight quickly enough for them. Pulverex do get eliminated though, and even though Reeds went down, the rest of Oxygen clean up the pieces and start to find momentum, but here come Tom Young Kung. Looking to take advantage of the fight that's broken out, but have Oxygen managed to reset in time?
Well, I think Realize, yeah, being here could be a threat as well. There's just those extra lingering players that makes this very difficult to try and navigate, because in one door, you find one team, you go out of the next, and suddenly there's a surprise waiting for you as it's ring around the rosies at the moment.
Well, here's another fight, and it's going to be Dark Zero versus Complexity by the looks of things, and Complexity are going to be swept aside. Complexity fall in 14th position. Dark Zero once again controlling this bridge, and this is going to be a real test of Dark Zero, this lobby. They have a long way to rotate. They've got a lot of teams to go through. Back to the battle of Fragment at the moment. That's a beautiful spray with the R9.
One of the worst feelings when you just feel it absolutely shredding you right from behind, and unfortunately it's just going to have to be just asking the teammates to try and do something to save you, but it's not going to happen. Tom Young Kung now own this building, but they're still trying to find those last remaining players. And that 1v3 does not look like a fun one to me, but the Arcstar could make a difference.
Oh, he got stuck, and now there might be an opportunity to fly in. Killerpoint is trying to do what he can, but here comes the rest of the support from the team, and Tom Young Kung, clean house. Dark Zero eliminated in the meantime. And it was FaZe, I believe, who took them down. Realize also fallen. And I mentioned how this shift has affected so many teams. Almost a fake prediction on where they thought the game was going to be going. And now they're all feeling the effects of it.
Well, FaZe Clan, who need, similarly to the likes of Fnatic, etc., we were talking about earlier, they need wins on the board here on World's Edge if they're to find themselves in the winner's bracket. Woo! They are capable of it, but Phonyhead goes down. I don't know whether they're going to be able to get him back up. They might have to play this back as a 2, as it will be finished off, as TSM are just being a nuisance, as Oxygen Esports also go down, and TSM are just having a field day here from height.
I mentioned how this height is so important for these kind of zones, not just if it pulls out to where we thought it was going to, but even if it pulls back to where we are going to, because you can just pepper shots down from that high ground, and that's exactly what TSM are doing right now. Sentinel's still alive though, looking to clean a little bit of space in front of them. The black hole's going to go down. Is it going to connect for big damage? Yes, it is. Queeful gets that entry damage and gets a knock as well. Northemption have been eliminated. And you have to say that Sentinels are in a fantastic position for this endgame.
Yeah, Sentinels have poised themselves very well here, and they've been well aware of their surroundings to make sure they don't allow anyone to just creep up on them. Dojo, after that initial win down in the southwest at Thermal, they're still alive as well, trying to make sure they can ensure their place in the winner's bracket. And Enemy's doing a job here with the R99.
Into Force 36 are eliminated, TSM eliminated as well. The Dojo, who needed this game, who wanted to have this game where they get points on the board, followed up by kills. It's almost been the perfect game for them so far, Dan. Winning the contest and then going forward on the rotate, finding their way to zone, and picking up yet more KP alongside it.
And with that KP, that sends Dojo to an overall of 102 points. Now for me, that's a good cutoff. That's what we're expecting, 100 to be that barrier. So they should be good for the winner's bracket, even after match 4 here. But look at FaZe. They need points even more than the likes of Dojo, and they're gonna have to do it as a 2.
Do not reload your gun, do not pop any meds.
Do not breathe.
Do not breathe. No bodily functions for the remaining members of FaZe Clan. Dojo, though, confidence, you can see it in the way that they're just walking forward at the moment. There is a care package in front of them. You have to wonder what's going to be inside that, and that's going to help them towards the end game. Designful, though, with the wingman in his hands. One of my favorite players to watch with the wingman. He's always dinking away at those shields, and if he hits a headshot, it's usually the trigger to go.
Snipe down and Frex, still trying to stay alive, still trying to avoid everything, but there's a couple of teams above them. The enemy goes down. And that's not going to be good for Dojo now, because they try and get the smoke down, try and get a little bit of cover. Everything from Timmy being thrown here to get some sort of support to try and get back as a full 3.
A lot of utility being used by teams, understandably so, as we enter our top 5. Timmy's going to have time to reset here, does have the smokes, and he's going to have to shoot across here to help out his teammate survive. Timmy, now left on his own, hugging the care package and hoping it's going to be enough to give him the care to get towards his endgame. Slides away for a second. Can he survive? The answer is no. Dojo eliminated. We're down to 4, and FaZe have somehow taken the high ground.
Yeah, this is great for FaZe because they can now get another team. Go next, eliminated. 3 squads remaining, and FaZe still have this height. It's Optic Gaming, FaZe, and Sentinels left here. Optic in prime position.
Sentinels down on that low ground, a shift of positions. We saw Sentinels up on height just a few moments ago, but they tried to clear out that side of the zone, and by doing so, gave this height up to FaZe. The ultimate's gonna come in from Bangalore, though, designed to try and force FaZe off of that high ground. FaZe just eat it up. They don't want to give up this high ground, as Optic just wait on that low ground for any kind of fight to break out.
FaZe should be able to do Optic a favor, and Sentinels maybe actually looking to push the agenda. Perhaps they've sensed that it's just a 2 above them. They'd rather just wipe them out now and give themselves a fair 3v3, and they will push in, snipe down fools, but so does RKN. And now this should open things up for Optic, but they've got to climb, they've got to go up, but they've got a Horizon!
Horizon with the Q. And now they just send it in. It should be a simple finish to this game as FaZe are eliminated. Sentinels versus Optic. Big spray coming in from Skittlecakes, but he will go down as well. The finishing pieces should be picked up, though, by Nox and Optic Gaming. Win your first game here on World's Edge, and just at the right time, with the elimination bracket and the winner's bracket to be decided.
And Optic Gaming again just further solidifying themselves in that winner's bracket with a victory and showing that they are real, genuine competitors at the ALGS Championships, because that is multiple victories we've now seen them have across the first 2 days. Get the Green Wall fans in the building, because Optic certainly are a team we have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think one of the form teams coming into the event. Now, I've got to say, the performance yesterday was somewhat surprising to me. We know the group sometimes can throw spanners in the works when you've got people contesting on different drops, you've got people rotating in a way that maybe they didn't do in scrims, whatever it might be. But for Optic, I think they are certainly a shark in the water and an underdog, not just to get to those grand finals, but maybe to get their hands on that trophy as well.
I think that's what we've learned in these first 2 days at the ALGS Championship, is that even though a lot of the conversation is around Dark Zero and TSM, quite rightly so, for their victories and the only land victories, but there seems to be a good 10 squads that have been finding wins that we just start to think, well, you know what, if they have a day on that Sunday, there's no reason why they couldn't be lifting that trophy and suddenly taking all the plaudits at the Championships, the biggest tournament of them all, with the biggest prize pool.
Well, let's take a look at the final circle from our 4th game of the series, our first one on World's Edge. And again, it's just a sign of discipline, and that's what wins you these games in these positions from Optic Gaming. They know that the rest of the lobby is in front of them. They're scoping out, they're scouting out. They knew the position of both Sentinels and FaZe, and you can see here, as soon as damage is going to be starting to be done, it's just the trigger to move in.
It's one of those where you're a little bit worried when it's on the high ground, but because Skittlecake's playing Horizon, then there's suddenly all of that worry and any doubt is just left behind. And we see this quite a lot in Apex Legends when you have 3 teams left and you wait for 2 to fight it out, you wait for some damage to be done, and as soon as RKN goes down, that's when it's Optic's time to just get involved in this fight. And of course, it's anonymous mode, so they wouldn't have known who was knocked and which player was knocked, but they certainly saw 2 knocks happening, and that's when they said, look, let's get involved. A good effort from the rest of the Sentinels players to try and make it competitive. They got down Skittlecake, but it's not going to be enough, because the positioning was perfect from Optic Gaming, who find themselves with yet another victory here in the Championships.
I was going to say, pretty satisfying final kill as well from Nox, just whipping the 30-30 out, and a little bit of hit fire connects immediately. 1 out of 1 bullet, all that was required to turn that game into a win. But there's always the step before, isn't it? We always see these final circles and we're like, great, Optic Gaming controlled it and they always looked like they were going to win. But it's before that where they cleared out the southern side of that zone down, won that fight, managed to survive through all the carnage that went down, that put them in that position to even third party and have the opportunity to go forward and win that game.
But also Optic chose that position very early on as well. They were right there at the center area. I said there's gonna be a lot of open space. There's not many buildings to really kind of hunker down in. Oh wow, I went very West Country then. Hunker down?
You do it when you get tired.
Maybe it's just, yeah, when I get a little bit more
maybe
tired.
it's the longer you spend in England.
The West Country starts to come through. But yeah, Optic had a very early position there and they made it count. It's one of those things where we see teams try and reside in those positions time and time again, and they'll get bullied off that spot, but Optic held strong.
Yeah, they certainly did it indeed. And the leaderboards obviously will shift and will change. And I think it's good news almost for the bubble teams when you see one team that's in qualification spot take the game away with some decent KP, because it doesn't really affect the standings around that qualification spot in 20th place. So even though it's like, unfortunately, don't win the game, if you're not the team, if it's not one of your, say, competitors in that bubble winning the game, then you can refocus and you can think about games 5 and 6 being the ones that could be yours.
Yeah, just to give you an idea of the teams that have most likely qualified, just as we look at the match 4 results and we get confirmation, Optic Gaming, 20 points for them, but Sentinels picking up a big 19. 12 points for FaZe, it's a start. It's still doable going into match 5 and 6, but they need to catch teams like J-Lings, for example, who were holding down one of those winners bracket spots a little bit earlier when we saw how they were performing. And also Pioneers, they were in 20th at 91 points, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I'm imagining that J-Lings on 98, 100 Thieves on 97, those are the 2 teams that are next in jeopardy. Those are the next ones that are going to be targeted here by all of these teams in the lobby that want to try and find their way to the winners bracket.
One thing that worries me though is Alliance, right? I mean, losing the contest, now they've got 2 games where they're essentially relying on having absolute bangers to get themselves into that winner's side of the bracket. It's a tough situation to be in, right? Knowing that you're going to be contested for the next 2 games as well, because why wouldn't Dojo? They just won the first one. They put good points on the board in a zone that wasn't favorable to them. You know Dojo will come in once again.
I think what's more concerning for Alliance is they don't even need bangers, but they just need some points. And if they are denied game after game here through 5 and 6, they will fall short. They are at the moment 1 point behind the cutoff. And if they don't find a couple of points, they're not going to even have that chance. So they need to win one of the contests here against Dojo. Otherwise, we might be seeing Alliance in that elimination bracket.
Yeah, an impressive 10-kill game coming in from Sentinels to take that 2nd place as well. Those points certainly do stack up. I'm pretty sure coming into this, the Sentinels were overall in 20th position. So it's before the group started. So good performance from Sentinels in this game number 5 might just take the pressure off their shoulders and relax them a little bit more than they were coming into this set. But Optic, I just want to talk about them a little bit more. Not enough people are talking about Optic Gaming and what they are set out to achieve in this tournament.
Yeah, I think Optic Gaming are just an incredible fighting team. So when they get a circle like that they can play so early and other teams have to come to them, they're always going to be in a good spot. I will give Skittlecake credit every single time I see him on my screen.
You're his biggest fan, I think.
I think I might be, with just how impressive his career has been and the rise to the top and being on this Optic roster. I mean, being on an Optic roster is pressure in itself, a massive organization. These guys living up to the hype here in this series. They're on 41 points at the moment, and that goes towards a total they already had of 89. So as I mentioned earlier, winners bracket already guaranteed.
2 more games to go, and that's how things look. And ANZ, hey, what's up, everybody?
Welcome back.
And now I'm kind of looking at the other end of the table. Looking at Fnatic. What's going wrong for Fnatic at the moment? Because it just seems that they're really struggling not just for placement, to pick up points full stop.
Yeah, I think they are dying in very early situations. They're being out-rotated quite often by a couple of other rosters at the moment, and I don't know whether that's just because the pace of the meta has changed a little bit since Split 2 playoffs, and Fnatic haven't quite caught up with that. They need to maybe just be moving that extra bit faster and speedier and traversing that map in a way that they can be the teams that holds out and just holds those choke points.
Maybe map 5 is going to be that game for Fnatic. We'll have to wait and see, though. When we get back from this break, we'll have the game for you. Don't go anywhere.
Herman Miller, the official chair of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Well, the night is almost done here in Birmingham, but not quite yet. 2 more games of Apex Legends to get through here in Birmingham at the ALGS Championships, and we are going to find out who heads to that winner's side of the bracket.
And we mentioned that we're in Birmingham as well.
We're in Birmingham still.
The 4th time as we are here. I mean, it's been a great day here in Birmingham for the ALGS Championships, and it's just going to get better. I mean, this crowd is going to get bigger. The games are going to get even better as well, but we have to send some teams into the elimination bracket, and we have the privilege, or I guess it's not really a privilege if you might look at it that way, to send those teams in these final 2 matches. Match 5 and 6 is coming our way, and I tell you what, it's crunch time. A lot of these teams now are starting to struggle to find those points.
I was going to say, you can send teams to the elimination bracket. I'll send them to the winner's side. I'll be the good guy, you can be the bad guy for once. Usually it's flipped around a little bit.
Yeah, and that doesn't seem fair. But I can give you the lay of the land and tell you how things are sitting at the moment. In 20th position is Pulverex on 92 points. They have just surpassed Pioneers, which is bad news for Pioneers fans. That means they're done. That means they'll be in the elimination bracket. Ahead of them, Tom Young Kung on 94, 100 Thieves on 97. So remember, they're not playing right now. Jay Lings on 98. So both Jay Lings and 100 Thieves are the 2 teams who are not playing, that are watching on and hoping teams will not surpass them. I'll keep you updated as best as I can when teams reach them, but we're back at Thermal Station. It's Alliance versus Dojo round 2.
You can take a little bit of damage off the rip as well, and he's going to fall once more. So Timmy for the Dojo with the opening pick. Now they just need to play tight, need to play together, and make sure that they don't get kind of the free pick given away to them. Alliance kind of split a little bit differently on their drop this time around, trying to avoid essentially getting that first blood against them. But again, it's the Dojo, not just the first pick, but complete control of the high ground as well here, Dan. This is the worst possible situation for Alliance.
Dojo at the moment, as I've mentioned earlier, 16th position, 102 points. They should be good. So this fight is more important for Alliance, who are outside of those top 20 spots. They need points. They need to be surviving this contest.
Well, it's not looking good, because Effect is down as well, and Hackis, well, they know where he is. The shield crack comes in, and Timmy says, boys, he's over there. Go chase him down.
It's just a matter of finding that last remaining player. as Alliance likelihood is they will fall here again at Thermal Station. Now I will say, I don't think it would be the end of the world if Alliance were to be in that elimination bracket tomorrow. You have to imagine that they've been practicing with Mandy coming into this tournament. Now Effect is back, probably hasn't been playing much this last week. I actually wouldn't mind an elimination bracket run if I was Alliance.
I was actually talking about this in the green room with Genome, I think it was, and I think it might, like you say, might be a really good thing for them just to get more practice under their belt, start to feel comfortable again, and also go through a few games where the Dojo aren't in their group and they're going to be contested on World's Edge. But I think it's an interesting dichotomy, isn't it? Because you don't ever want to be in the elimination bracket. You want to get to the grand finals as quickly as you can and as successfully as you can. But with what they've had to go through, it's understandable if Alliance gets stronger and stronger through that elimination bracket.
And also with extra points, you can't get any extra points going into the grand final from the elimination side. You can only get it from the winner's side, so of course you would prefer to do that way. However, it would go against the narrative of Alliance usually being very good in groups and then slightly underperforming when we get towards the Championship Sunday. Maybe if they underperform in groups, who knows what might happen on Sunday.
Look at you sowing the seeds for Alliance here with a little bit of storyline. I love that from you. Northeption making their rotate, and you can see why they are going where they're going at the moment. It's going to be that high ground around Survey Camp. You would expect that to be where we are going to be finishing this game. MDYY already there. Northeption, we just saw them. Complexity in a great spot as well, which is very, very much home for them, dropping with their split between Epic and Survey Camp. Fnatic wrapping all the way to the north side of zone once again, and FaZe are going to have to be aware of that.
So FaZe at the moment, who are trailing those top 20 spots by around 15 points, are going to have to hope that this could be the game where they can propel themselves up the leaderboards. As for Fnatic, it's a lot to do. It really has to be back-to-back wins here for Fnatic if they are going to find themselves in the winner's bracket, but still doable, still possible. It has to start here, and it has to be that comeback story that looks unlikely at the moment, but with a zone like this, they hold the northern tip. Sometimes when you do get these train tracks in this final circle, it can bode well.
Hey, like a lot of people in the crowd, I believe in Yuka supremacy. We'll have to see if that comes through and he can really take over a few games alongside Umi-chan and Meltzera. But like you say, it's a tough road for Fnatic, but it's still a road they can walk. Elsewhere, you can see Oxygen Esports. They're doing a little bit of crafting at the moment. They're going to be approaching Skyhook in a few moments' time as Tom Young-Kung are just ahead of them on their rotate. Elsewhere, though, we've got a fight breaking out, and it's Sentinels who are involved.
Sentinels who more than likely have secured their winners bracket places, but would like to unsecure it for some other teams, and it is going to be the opener as well, coming from Koipel. And they'll get that finish, so Sentinels making sure that they assert their dominance anywhere they may be on the map, but certainly in the surrounding areas of Epicenter, they're going to get a lot of neighbors. So just creating as much space as possible is good, as Aurora, on their rotation, are going to be meeting potentially another squad here.
Fnatic are going to be close by as well. They heard a little bit of gunfire going down, and they were like, hey, maybe we can get a few KP out of this. Elsewhere, you can see the Dark Zero. They're finding their way towards Survey Camp as well, but having arrived, they found that there's quite a few people already at the inn, so they're going to have to just retreat for a few seconds and think about what their next move's going to be.
Dark Zero looking to just go into the winner's bracket as the #1 team as well. They do lead it in the overalls with 166. Blackhand only behind them by 7, but of course Blackhand have already played their game. So Dark Zero looking in really good stead, being the favorites going into that winner's bracket.
Not looking too good here though. They're having to find somewhere to heal up. Sentinels decide to rotate away because they know they've got an engagement to win here against Pulverex. They've got to finish this off. They did get that first knock a few moments ago. They know it's a 3v2 situation, but can they convert? That's the question. The Ornator is hitting, but not quite hard enough here from Zenile.
He's able to just get away temporarily, get those shields back. They're not getting too desperate for kills, but they probably can if they want to get desperate. They can play in whichever way they want, but you also want to practice and making sure you are in the best position as possible. You are locked and loaded, ready to go in the winner's bracket tomorrow. The Pulverex, very different story for them. We mentioned 20th position. They are the bubble team. They are the target for a lot of these squads. And they could do with a few extra points, but what a performance has been. 36 points in this set.
Well, one thing I will say about Pulverex, as we know, and they're about to ruin what I'm about to say, because Saku just took a lot of damage. If any team knows how to play as a duo, it's going to be Pulverex, right? I mean, they played an entire tournament as a duo, and they really gained a lot of traction in the Apex Legends community for what they were able to achieve. But it's F-Chan left on his own now. Can he do something magical for Pulverex in this game?
I mean, I remember a lot of rap F-Chan moments back then, and I'm sure he can do it again as Dark Zero It's yet another engagement for them. Complexity on the other side there. Another team are struggling a little bit with points. Maybe this could be the Kickstarter though, as it's good damage with the R99.
That's going to be Zainu and Jim Burton down 0 on his own. Dark Zero eliminated by Complexity. So no points really for Dark Zero in this game. One of the first 2 teams who are out, but Complexity, I mentioned how this is their home ground. This is a zone they will know so well. Well, coming out of that, taking down Dark Zero in a straight 3v3 has got to feel good.
And it would have to be, again, similarly to Fnatic, back-to-back wins really for Complexity. Big ones as well if they want to find themselves in the winner's bracket, but it's going to be a confidence builder taking down Dark Zero, that's for sure, as Oxygen Esports making their rotation. Now, there was a lot of expectations on Oxygen Esports coming into this tournament, and rightly so. An amazing split 2 performance, but they haven't really matched that as of yet. As for Tom Youngkung, maybe overachieving in terms of what we expected from them, but they deserve every plaudit that they get because they've been playing insane every single day so far.
Should be safer now as well. Nobody really in the vicinity. You can see that they're kind of a little bit aware that there might be a few teams rotating in, maybe from Monument, where Sentinels actually are at the moment. And Complexity have got to be careful here as well. They try to approach Survey Camp once again. Some unfriendly neighbors, though, putting down a little bit of damage for them. Monsoon, ooh, he got a little bit of help on his way down from a grenade. But it should be safe for now. Nobody really close enough to challenge Complexity here as they just reset, refocus, and think about what the next play is going to be.
A team I am wondering how they're going to make their rotation is FaZe up towards Climatizer. They still haven't really moved. I imagine they will try and take this northern side off of Fnatic, who have been holding it for quite some time. But Complexity, they should be safe for now at Epicenter, but they will be joined because the circle is still moving north, so all these southern teams are going to have to join them. Now, this is FaZe, what I was talking about. They're still just chilling, happy at Climatizer, but they are going to be forced in ever so slightly on this northeastern side. And if Fnatic do catch a whiff of it, there could be a little fight happening on the northern tip. But I think Fnatic, they focused their attention so much towards the train tracks where Aurora are that FaZe might be able to scamper in unnoticed.
One thing that's impressive here about Fnatic is the position they managed to get, and also the info they're going to get that there's a couple of white shielded players on FaZe coming towards them. That's a double armor check now. One white, one blue. Fnatic are going to be looking at this and thinking, I don't think you really want to take this fight, FaZe, because we have a strong position up on this rock.
Yeah, just as I said, they might scamper in unnoticed. Suddenly Yuka whips around and spots them. And there's not going to be an easy move for FaZe now. They're going to have to try and think of a plan B here. As Optic hold a solid position, and it looks like maybe they're thinking about getting aggressive here. It's TSM on the other side.
Drop having to be friendly with this crate for a few seconds while he pops the battery. And instead of taking on the team on the height in the open, he decides that just rotating on this low ground with the natural cover and terrain is a much smarter play to make. The Sky's making their rotate into Climatizer as well, just off screen at the moment. But TSM and Optic, they're creeping up on each other here. Oh, and now they definitely know they're close.
Yeah, and now Dropped is going to be laying down the law. Rolling Thunder comes through as well as Dark Veil, so all of the tools being used for Optic to try and either engage or just try and surpass TSM, but they really want to push up on them here.
Yeah, you can see they're just trying to force them back at the moment, and that Rolling Thunder is certainly going to help them do that, just so they can creep into zone, and then maybe they can take a little bit more time to take this 3v3 engagement. Drop does have the Digi threat, and he's also sending a frag grenade up into the skies. Now, the question is it going to be a golden one? It doesn't look like it is for now.
No, TSM are playing this one very careful. Not taking any risks at the moment, more than welcoming Optic Gaming to just shadow them for a little bit. But we do see Luda getting a knock onto Reps, so they were trying to back off, but now we see other teams getting involved.
We certainly do, and it's going to be Complexity, and Monsoon poking, but Monsoon being taught a lesson. You can't poke against Verholst. He gets ripped down, and now Reps tries to move in. TSM, though, all of a sudden, this is getting a little bit risky. It's all down to Imperial Hell, 142, but Optic are just looking at this and waiting to pick up the pieces. TSM down as Optic move in to surely finish off Complexity.
Yeah, and that's a shame for Complexity. They probably thought their luck was in where they're able to get that initial knock, not knowing and maybe fearing that someone else could arrive, but it was Optic Gaming who arrived last. Complexity eliminated, and that might be their chances of the winner's bracket dying with them, whereas Optic Gaming continue to show why they're a real threat.
I mean, Optic are looking like such a strong fighting team. I mean, we know that, right?
Yeah.
But in previous tournaments, sometimes we've just seen, for whatever reason, the chemistry has felt a little bit off in those 3v3s. Well, Optic look like a well-oiled fighting machine. in this lobby especially, and certainly through today's action.
But we also have to remember, in terms of like how many LANs some of these squads have played together, it's often only 1 or 2, and you learn a lot from LAN as Oxygen are going to get pushed on here. Vayne has to back off.
Does a pretty good job of it though, let's be real. He's got that digi threat as well, so he'll be able to fire back through the smoke, but Vayne escapes. Much easier to do that on mouse and key than it is on controller. Turn that fast and get out of there.
Use the up your sense, Mark. That's all you need to do. But I know you like to play it on low, and that's fine. It's acceptable. So do the pros. Optic Gaming. They just seem to be confidently pushing into anyone at the moment, and I'm not really surprised with how they've been playing so far today, but they still have to move from this southern side of Epicenter. Oxygen are going to basically mirror them on the other side. Sentinels are going to be the team in Epicenter, maybe holding out a few of these squads here.
Well, the one team who's banged center zone at the moment is Go Next. We haven't even mentioned them yet, and you can forgive us for that. Coming into this lobby, 29th place, I believe. The Sky's taking a little bit of damage themselves, but in the kill feed again, you can see Koiful picking up 1 for Sentinels. FaZe, though, who have been here for so long inside Acclimatizer, trying to fight their way out of it at the moment, because they can see where that zone's going. They know they will not be safe, and the problem for FaZe is they've never been in a position to do damage in this game, being hunkered down in Climatizer, so they're still left with 2 whites and a blue. They're going to hope and pray that a third-party opportunity presents itself that they can swoop in and clean up easily, so they can get some shield swaps and get upgraded without having to do the work themselves.
Yeah, they've just been slowly walking up a little bit further in Climatizer because they were held out by Fnatic. They can't afford to cross that open ground because they know Fnatic are there. Now, this is the circle you were talking about. This is where Go Next reside. And you're right, we hadn't spoken too much about Go Next. They are 23 points off the cutoff at the moment. That's still achievable though. If they have a circle like this and everyone starts to come towards them, is definitely winnable, but you still have to do it in match 6 as well. As now down at Epicenter, this is where Optic are starting to get involved. As Realize are taken down, Sentinels are above them, but Optic looks like they're wise to it.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting fight here because you also have Oxygen Esports working their way down from the high ground. So everybody who's in this little area under the central structure of Epicenter is going to be pretty mindful that they can't engage without having a guaranteed knock, or certainly guaranteed damage where they can escape from. Sentinels have got to plan how to leave though, and if they drop from the high ground, it's only Koiful with the Horizon passive who's going to be able to land and shoot almost immediately. So jumping the grab lift down may be a really smart play, and that's exactly what they do.
Sentinels, wow, good damage from the R99, but not enough because Arcane's taken so much, and now Koiful, he's left on his own, and he's hoping probably that Oxygen want to get involved in this one on the other side and maybe hold Optic back. Skittlecake takes down RKN again. And Optic's still very much ahead in this fight, but Oxygen are still not getting involved in the fight because this is far riskier for Oxygen. Optic and Sentinels can play a little bit more free, as now Sentinels will again be pushed up on.
Scenario goes down once again. Sentinels could not quite finish yet, but they might be in a few seconds' time. Dropped with a beautiful spray, and now snaps onto Koiful as the last player alive for Sentinels. They're out of the lobby. We're down to 13, and Optic, with this smoke, might be able to reset pretty comfortably.
We've got 7 teams outside of the circle, and this circle is closing. All these guys on the western side are going to have to try and force themselves in. Dojo, Oxygen, Aurora, Gambari Otazan, Northeption, MDY White, E36. They all have to move at the same time. It is not going to be pretty in this kill feed.
Gambari Otazan just thinking KP. Forget about getting to zone. We know we're not going to be able to really survive. We've got to clear this side. But they can't quite connect with these shots. The Hemlock's going to come out instead. It's a little bit windy, but snaps on when needed to. Younghe moving forward now. Northeption eliminated, and even though the zone is a problem, they might be able to just about get inside, but no. Gambari Otazan will be eliminated, the zone doing so much damage.
Optic Gaming also got forced into Tom Young Kung. They're currently fighting right now, but it is still going towards Go Next as Fnatic on this northwestern side have been holding this rock for so long as Optic Gaming do get eliminated, but still fine, they're still consistent. It's Oxygen, really, who have to do something as Vayne connects with the Kraber.
Someone go and get that bullet back out of his belly button, because that needs to be reloaded and used again. That was a beautiful shot coming in for Vayne. Can't quite connect with the 30-30 though. Smokes are gonna go down, and with a reload of the Kraber, Vayne is feeling hungry for more.
And that's like with the teams left, who importantly needs points? Oxygen, FaZe, Fnatic, they all need big games here in match number 5 to give them a chance to get into that winner.
Well, how about FaZe, right? I mean, they've kind of crept their way into this endgame. They have barely had an engagement, barely had a position to fight against. And they are still involved, and speaking of Fnatic, they are also still here. They are winning the fights. Yuka Supremacy might still be something we can talk about, because we mentioned that Fnatic need to win back-to-back games to have a chance of going to the winner's side. It's looking like they may be in a position to do that now.
Oxygen are also pushing up on Tom Young Kung, and it looks like it's going all right, but Vane's just been taken down, and as I say it though, Tom Young Kung eliminated, so Oxygen have won that fight on the southern side. Oxygen still alive, Fnatic and FaZe also on the northern tip are alive. By the way, Disguised still alive on the eastern side as well. They've been very quiet this game.
FaZe finally up to blues. That's good news for them. Maybe a fighting chance in a 3v3. But this passive playstyle has worked well for them up until this point. As we jump over for Fnatic. They need this more than anyone. Let's jump into the comms with Fnatic.
取り切りに行くのありだなこれ左下どうも左下にいやありかもありかもありかもあり行こう行こう今行こう今行こうあこのターンねアンチ絶対左下これ登ってるバンガホライゾン100やったこれ壁越える俺いやアンチ来るよやってるめっちゃやってる上右上もいる左上見てラスト左上に負けるときたいいよ何もできない左上後ろ入れてる左上押さえてる左上見た何もできないよタップいけるか左上押さえてる左上押さえてる下安全な場所ここ俺もいや右上上がんねこれ一回上がっていいと思う待って巻き終わって2秒たまない俺僕ない俺も僕ない
Well, the comms through the win of the fight. Fnatic still alive here, Dan, and picking up KP alongside it.
Yeah, really bad news. Go next, go down, and now we see FaZe also fall. They're the next team to get knocked out of this lobby. Fnatic down to 2, but might be able to get the revive. It's Oxygen Esports, Disguised, and Fnatic. Now, Oxygen, yes, they've got a lot to do. As for Disguised...
Disguised are walking up on this.
Disguised want to do this. They want to get involved.
They're walking up on this, but that may have been a mistake, Lou, because you're going against Yuka, and he doesn't miss very often.
Great damage coming out of the EVA 8, and now just trying to use the natural cover that's available, but now we see Disguised! They re-engage, but Fnatic, they're holding strong.
Umachan gets the armor swap though. Can he win this fight? Can he look for the KP on the down players? That's the question. Fnatic will be eliminated. Disguised survived, but it just opens the door for Oxygen Esports to finally announce themselves here in Birmingham.
Oxygen Esports keep their winners bracket dreams alive as they start to get a little bit closer to those top 20 positions. And how important could it be that they beat Disguised to it? Disguised were about 7 points off of the top 20. Things are getting really close around that benchmark in that 20th position. This is going to be terrifying going into match number 6.
Feel very lucky that we're privileged to be able to cast this final game that's coming up in just a few moments, because my goodness, it is going to be a bloodbath here in Birmingham. For Oxygen Esports though, confidence restored, belief restored, a big win when you needed it the most. Well, they just got it on the main stage.
And it's so impressive how disciplined they were throughout that game. They were on that southern side. They could have got involved in the fight when Optic and Sentinels were scrapping, but they knew it was a risk. They knew getting involved there would just lead them to a potential fourth party. So instead, they just played their position a bit better.
I will also say the power of the Kraber. We always talk about it, right? We saw Vane. He was able to pick a few players up. I also saw Aiden pick up the Kraber out of nowhere in the kill feed, and he managed to clear a path for Oxygen to move towards that end zone. But it was Fnatic on the northern side of the zone, clearing everything out so close to turning that fight on its head as well. But they do secure a top 3 position with some good KP alongside it. The question is, does it leave them with enough room to maybe make a run in this final game?
And this just gets even more worrying for teams like 100 Thieves and J-Lings watching on, hoping that they've done enough to get into that winners bracket, because if teams who are further outside of the top 20 continue to score points, it's more likely that we would see J-Lings and 100 Thieves knocked down into that elimination bracket, and that's what Oxygen Esports want to achieve, as do Disguised, who are also there on the brink. But for Oxygen, you mentioned it, it was that Kraber that gave them the confidence to push into several fights. They had this kind of western side, and then they heard all that gunfire that was going down. And again, as it so often always is, it's about just trying to time it perfectly, making sure that you engage at the right time, you don't push too soon. They get the information that FaZe are down, so now they're suddenly thinking, okay, is there more gunfire? Yes, there is. Let's make sure we're well equipped, we've got the utility, we're full shields, and then we'll start to push up.
2 shots in the Kraber. Plenty of light ammo to play with in the final battle as well. And like you say, as soon as that knock comes in there from Yuka, you know that's the trigger for Oxygen Esports to move up, take the high ground of this building, and just survey what should be an easy win for them. No pressure really in Oxygen in those final moments. It's all about discipline. We've talked about it so many times today in these situations, Dan, but Oxygen showing as well that they've got that in the tank.
So much information they gathered from Bloodhound as well. Reed's able to just get that scan as Oxygen put 23 more points on the board, which could do them absolute wonders. I believe that will put them up to around 88, which would have them about kind of 6 points off top 20.
Very doable.
Very, very doable. But again, there are other teams they are competing with. It's not as simple as surpassing a point system here. You have to make sure you also beat the teams that are trying to race you there.
Match 5 is done and dusted. ANC is not disappointed, and now we go to the final game of group play. This is going to be ridiculous, but Alliance, I think they've got to be looking at the elimination bracket now, Dan. That's 2 contests, both lost to the Dojo, and that might be the difference between Alliance going to the elimination bracket and the Dojo going to the winner's side.
Well, Alliance, they're on 90 points, and Oxygen on around 88, so 2 teams who are very close to the top 20, but 2 very different stories. And for Alliance, it's as simple as that. They have to win the contest against Dojo in this match 6, otherwise they will be going to that elimination bracket. 0 points in both matches 4 and 5. Dojo winning that one is so important for them, but it is going to be scary times for Alliance in match 6.
I mean, scary times for Alliance, for the Dojo as well. If they win the contest, it's not just winning the fight, is it? It's the fact that you get the KP, which is feeling pretty good as well. Just got a little thumbs up from Design4 as well as he went past. He said, you guys are talking about the right stuff right now. But Oxygen Esports, here's some stats from that match 5 from them. 11 kills, 11 assists, all the placement points that you could possibly want. Good damage dealt from them as well.
Yeah, and stats can tell you a lot, but I think it was the positioning, it was the discipline from Oxygen Esports that really won them that game, and the calls were absolutely perfect from them, and it now gives them a chance of potentially getting into the winner's bracket after match 6. It's doable for Oxygen Esports.
Who's doing it? Who's going through?
I'm worried about Alliance, I will say. Who's
going through?
Oh, I think Oxygen are going to do it. I think they might make it in.
Okay, I love that call, and Oxygen obviously feeling pretty good after what we just saw in that last game, but it's got to be eyes on. Have we ever had a contest which is so important in a final game of groups that could decide what team goes to the winner's bracket? I certainly can't remember it.
I mean, often we've had contests happening because people want to eliminate another team to get them off of their drop spot, but this is just a drop spot situation where it's been happening all week long, or we expected it to happen. It was doing it in scrims, and now it happens here in tournament play. And I think that Dojo, after 2 successful wins, they're going to be more than confident. And also, Dojo don't really have anything to lose with the amount of points they've been able to secure so far. It is all Alliances to lose in that contest.
Well, we've got some more stats for you to bring up as well, and a little bit of leaderboard action for you to show. Essentially what you've got to be keeping your eyes on as we head in towards our final game here. This is ANC. This is how it stands at the moment with 1 game to go. Optic Gaming on the top of the leaderboards, 53 points for them. Sentinels just in behind them with 49, but we were looking at the bubble teams coming in. Oxygen, that win is massive for them. 40 points now puts them in 4th position. Pulverex as well, good points from them.
Yeah, Optic guaranteed in winner's bracket. Sentinels should be good in winner's bracket. Dark Zero guaranteed. Oxygen still with stuff to do. Pulverex probably still stuff to do as well. They are right on the teetering edge of top 20. It is really crunch time now for a lot of these squads. There are a few outsiders that with a huge game, with a win plus kills, could still maybe be a surprise package into the winner's bracket.
What's your calculator saying about Fnatic's chances?
It's very unlikely.
Very unlikely?
I think if you type that into the calculator, it probably says, too many people, please try again. It's just going to be error codes happening. Fnatic, they are leaving themselves too much to do in match number 6. It would probably have to be a record-breaking game for them to find themselves in winner's bracket.
Well, as we wait for match number 6 to get underway, you're probably thinking, why do those players look so comfortable? Well, we the people, he's got the answer for you.
What up, everybody? I am here at the forum, and I have one of the coolest things to show you guys. So Herman Miller, an official partner of the ALGS, is hooking up the winners with a custom chair. So not only are they walking away with $600,000, but they are walking away with something that you cannot get unless you become a world champion of Apex. So this is also part of your passport. So if you want to win some free prizes, you got to come down, take a picture, but that's not all. So the most important thing that they are all fighting for is not only a chance at glory, but a chance to be holding this trophy up at the end of the championship on Sunday. On day 1, I said 1 shot, one opportunity, to seize everything they've ever wanted, one moment. Will they capture it or just let it slip? So casters, back to you to see who captures that moment.
Thank you so much, peeps. And I've got to say, that is something kind of special, isn't it, right? The custom Herman Miller that you get if you take that trophy home. A beautiful, beautiful, it's almost artistic. It's almost, it's not antique, it's brand new. Bad word.
Brand spanking new. One day could be an antique.
Should be an antique. Valuable.
Make sure you keep
Valuable
it pristine.
like an antique.
Also impressed that he used...
I'm going to stop speaking.
He used Eminem lyrics during that little video there, so hats off to him, or well, hats on to him, should I say, as we haven't seen peeps without one yet. But I tell you what, I'm going to get one off him as this week goes on. But match 6 is almost locked and loaded. We've already mentioned where our eyes will be focused right at the start of the game.
Of this game, all eyes on Thermal Station, all eyes on the dojo, all eyes on Alliance. This could decide the fate of who goes through to that winner's bracket, and I tell you what, it's the perfect time for a listen-in to start the game. Let's jump into the comms with Alliance.
Might beat me actually. I'm definitely getting those before. He's beating me. He's beating me. I'm landing close here, shooting in the back. I got Eve, right? Where are you guys?
Harasi has no gun, Harasi has no gun.
Come inside if you want. Kill us out if you can.
What's... Yeah, here on me.
Yeah, left side. Throw my nade. Put my door down. Where are you, FX? You good?
I'm outside, yeah.
Nice one. Nice. On the bin. One high gun.
One is too high.
Can we kill the guy in the bin? He ducked on me.
One dropping. One is dropping.
Dead. Let's go. I don't see him. He's on the bin here somewhere. Nope. He's running a platform. Can you kill him together? Yeah. We got him. Climbing. I'm one. I'm one. Don't peek.
He's on top, all the way top. Crack him.
He's flash. I'm going on him. Kill him.
41 flash, 1 HP.
Nice. Let's go. Lock it in.
We're fucking with the game.
Look for 3P. Lock it in. Yeah, lock it in.
Alliance win the contest, the dojo will fall, and Alliance's chance of the winner's bracket is still alive.
That puts Alliance into 21st position, 1 point away from top 20, 1 point behind Disguised, who currently hold that 20th position. Jailings and 100 Thieves still are in 18th and 19th at the moment on 98 and 97 points. But with all of these following teams still with the potential to overtake them, Alliance, Pulverex, Oxygen, FaZe, they could all be able to jump and leapfrog them as we get a circle which looks somewhat similar to what we've just seen, but it is going to be ever so slightly more northeast and maybe will favor Sentinels who are on that eastern side.
Very, very similar zone to what we've seen pretty much in the last 2 zones.
Yeah.
So teams will be expected to take up very, very similar positions as you would expect if you've won a game recently. If you're Optic Gaming, if you're Oxygen Esports, you're probably thinking, huh, cool, okay, we're going to go a long way, but we've already proved that we can do it here. Pulverex on their way to Fragment at the moment. Dark Zero just ahead of them.
So for Alliance, who have to go all the way from Thermal Station, they don't just have to get a couple of kills and that will be it, that will be enough. They need to outplace or outfrag Disguise, Volvorex, and Oxygen. We're going to see some hearts broken, I think, here on the main stage, because there are some squads who probably think they would have done enough as Dark Zero are getting aggressive.
Yeah, they know there's only 2 players left because Jim Burton got the info that one was still trying to cross at the back. So Dark Zero will want to try and press this advantage. And if someone peeks it, that might be the knock. Flesh all over the place, but nobody on their back quite yet.
Plenty of players in and around Fragment and Monument at the moment as they're all making their rotation through to this northeast side. Dark Zero, they're just on the hunt right now as Jen Burton rips through the shields of Saku. And that will be an easy finish afterwards as Zero also gets one too. Dark Zero playing ruthless at the moment.
Ruthless is kind of, I think, the perfect way to summarize what Dark Zero's performance has been so far here in Birmingham. Elsewhere, TSM, surprise, surprise. The macro looking the same, and Sentinels, well, they're finding out for themselves. Go Next have been eliminated in the meantime. TSM looking to clean up the damage that they've started here on Sen.
So that's confirmation. Go Next will be in the elimination bracket. Their chances are gone, as we expected, after their unfortunate early exit in that final circle just in match number 5, as TSM, I can hear their comms here from the caster booth, let alone what the audience might be able to hear with their shouting and screaming, but Complexity also getting loud at the moment, trying to win this engagement.
Oh, Monsoon goes down though! The Peacekeeper inside of the bubble now turns this fight around. MDY White get that first knock, and you just felt like Monsoon, you almost thought he had a guaranteed kill with the amount of damage he'd done, but doesn't come through, and now the PK, it's gonna come back to haunt you!
Northeption eliminated, MDY White still alive and still with a very outside chance of getting to that winner's bracket, but going down means that this is not going to be good as a 2 against what is now going to arrive very shortly at their doorstep. Sentinels also eliminated in the meantime, as here comes FaZe. They want to get very much involved in this one and see if they can give themselves a chance of getting to that winner's bracket.
5th place overall in the group. 20th and above, all that they're really concerned about at this point, trying to get into that winner's side. Dan, how are they looking right now?
Well, they're in 24th at the moment, 88 points. They are, what, 6 points behind Disguise, so again, achievable. But again, you also have to hope Disguise don't get any points, right? And this is why it's going to be so difficult. We have about 4 or 5 teams all fighting for just a couple of spots. And unfortunately, they all cannot make it. There is not room in this winner's bracket anymore.
I was going to say, FaZe have taken the, I would say, the most nervy position you could possibly have for not only their position in the leaderboards, but also the spot they're trying to hold down, right? That truck is, we know it's a minefield. We know it's so difficult. And it's not just difficult to hold down inside. Controlling the space around it is almost impossible as well, because either side of it is this extreme elevation. So you step out for a second, there's going to be people with 30-30s, with scouts, whatever it might be, just chipping away. And if you put one step wrong, then you're going to fall on your back. So FaZe have chosen what I might call the path less traveled, or the most difficult path, to try and put themselves in a qualification position, but all power to them. Let's see if they can do it.
It's just such a tough spot to try and escape if you do end up getting pressure from either angle, as now we'll see a couple of squads making their move, arriving from Countdown and through the northern side of Landslide. It's Aurora behind Realize, seeing if they can maybe get a little bit of extra damage, not only increase those shields, but also just try and make sure that they're going to have an easier rotation through from this western side over to the east. Complexity are down to just 1, I think, after their fight earlier. They're not so far away from Realize and Aurora. And this is nervy times, as Imperial Hal also with the kill feed, making sure he gets a kill.
This might well be almost an identical zone to what we saw in our first game on World's Edge a little bit earlier, that Optic Gaming managed to win. So Optic will be like, hey, cool, we look like we've got a free southern rotate at the moment. If they take the same building they did before, we might be speaking about Optic Gaming in that end game once more.
For the team you were talking about in the area that FaZe were holding, I mean, it doesn't look that bad when you look at it in that point of view. We know how bad it feels when you're in that area, but if they can go unnoticed, if they can kind of stay quiet a little bit, they might be able to avoid a lot of attention and hope that everyone else starts taking fights, and then maybe that's when they can push out and take a slightly better position on this map. MDY White are the team that are above them. Dark Zero also holding down a spot in Epicenter at the moment, and are going to be a real threat with the high ground that they hold.
Zero just causing annoying damage as well, and it's going to be Disguised who are down on that low ground. They're going to have to burn the catwall just to escape, knowing that there's that extreme high ground that they're going to have to go up against. Dark Zero trying to hunt this down though. You can see that they want to try and get this knock. They're seeing a lot of utility being used, but Disguised actually making a pretty smart play here, Dan, because they knew that that position, it was not a position they're going to be able to survive in for more than a few minutes with Dark Zero looking over them.
Yeah, I mean, no one really survives very long with Dark Zero looking at them. That is the problem, and that's why Dark Zero are just so good at what they do. But now we're going to see Oxygen Esports involved in a scrap, and we know how important this is for Oxygen. GO are eliminated as Oxygen cannot afford to go down here. If they want to be in the winner's bracket, they have to get to the late game.
Also, if they hold down this building for the long game, they're in a great position for the end game. Oxygen Esports know this. They're trying to work around this catwall that's gone down. And now you're seeing the flank come in from Reeds. Can he get the knock? The answer is yes.
It's enough to get the opener, and I love this. Reposition, re-engage with the teammates and make sure that they're going to be the ones who can just play that opening damage, and then you get involved yet again. It's bait and switch at its very finest.
Reeds did get a knock, but Reeds has taken a lot of damage in this position. The good news for them is nobody's looking to third as yet. Oxygen Esports have managed to reset inside this building on the east side of Fragment. Now they're in a great position and set up for that endgame.
Oxygen Esports only 4 points away from that top 20 mark at the moment. Just trying to play catch up, but as long as Disguised, Pulverex, Alliance are all alive, bad news for Oxygen, as Optic Gaming have found themselves in a very similar spot, which we saw them win a game earlier. Pulverex eliminated in the kill feed, and that means confirmation Pulverex will be in the elimination bracket. Their chances of winners have dissipated with the early exit in 15th.
And who's taking them out? It's Disguised. Disguised, who disengaged a little bit earlier on from Dark Zero, have come back to maybe give themselves a chance by taking out that team who was holding down one of those winners bracket positions. That's why you survive in Apex Legends. That's why you don't take every single fight, because you know there's other opportunities. It's a longer game than just a fight in front of you.
And that's going to be a tough pill to swallow for Pulverex, who have had such a successful day here today, and it looked like it was a great series for them as well, but unfortunately some of the heavy hitters around them started to gain points in these final few games on World's Edge, whereas Pulverex just slipped off the pace ever so slightly. And now it means Pulverex will have to face that elimination bracket tomorrow. Now, as for the other teams still in and around, Disguised, Alliance, Oxygen Esports, FaZe, all still with a chance of getting in there. And Alliance, they've given themselves the opportunity. They won the engagement, but now they have to get into the late game.
Effect just recreated the sit forward meme. Did you see that? It's like chilling along and there's
chilling,
like, okay,
and he gets shot.
I get shot, time to lean forward. That's exactly what he does. Alliance probably feeling, I was going to say, a little bit up and down at the moment, but they did win that contest and they'll get to play some Apex Legends.
Oh, no.
Disguised. Guess who's coming back for you is Dark Zero, who get the knock. Lou is removed from the game. And now it's up to Xenox and Duplex to maybe do something special.
And this is massive for the rest of the lobby. Remember, Disguise hold that 20th position at the moment. If they fall, it opens the door for the likes of Alliance and for the likes of Oxygen. And unfortunately, it's Dark Zero who are the team are chasing them, who are putting in that damage as Disguised are gone. And now they will just have to watch on and hope that the teams below them do not surpass them. But with only 30 squads remaining, you'd imagine that there are going to be teams that will nick that 20th position away from Disguised.
Fnatic, maybe, just maybe, it would have to be a big game, but there is still a chance for them. They're approaching the zone from the north side. Realize they're going to be pressuring them from behind, and Yuka's taking a huge amount of damage on the cross for his team. Enterforce 36 has been eliminated. Well, Fnatic do have a chance to reset. Realize they're going to slow down because they were actually getting shadowed themselves by Tom Young Kung. TSM overlooking Fnatic in the meantime as well. This is a tough spot, not just to survive in, but to rotate out of here, especially with FaZe in the carriage just across from them. This is a rough rotate for them.
So E36 eliminated, and means they will be in the elimination bracket. And you said Fnatic. I mean, I said they'd need a record-breaking game, and perhaps I overstated a little bit because they are about, what, 20 points off of the cut at the moment, so still achievable. A victory here, plus kills, and maybe they could find themselves, but it is still a lot to do. As for Tom Young,
FaZe are in here!
They're getting involved in engagement! And they've gone down. FaZe still holding strong, and FaZe still trying to push their way into the winner's bracket. The dream is very much alive here. In this little crevice that they found themselves in, they hold on strong.
I said how it would be a tough game to win from this position.
But if you can hold it down, if you can stop the pressure that's going to continually come your way, you are going to be in a pretty good spot to play from. The only problem is the zone is moving away. MDY under pressure. Complexity eliminated in the meantime as well. It's Feiyu who's the last player alive now, and it's Dark Zero again, who are on a little bit of a tear in this final game.
MDY now eliminated as well. And this is getting difficult for a lot of these teams that are just desperately searching for a couple of kills, a little extra placement point to try and secure their spot in the top 20. As it stands, Alliance have just moved into 20th position. Aurora get eliminated as well, and Alliance are keeping the dream alive of winners bracket.
Alliance still alive, realize alive in the game and looking to clean up some KP. Sang-Yoon goes in with the Peacekeeper. Can he hit the grab lift though? Can he survive? Doesn't quite connect, but the teammates are there to give him the assistance, and Dark Zero's games today are done. They're out of the lobby. They've done enough. We all knew that coming into the final groups here, but realize pick up some important KP.
7 squads remain. That means extra placement points for Alliance, and that guarantees that Disguised will be in the elimination bracket. Alliance now do hold 20th spot and will be in the winners bracket if it stays like this. But of course, they are still being chased by a couple of teams. FaZe could still potentially ruin their day. Oxygen Esports could still ruin their day, as we have 7 squads left, but still a few that could steal away these final positions.
What I take away from what you just said is someone is about to have their day ruined.
Yes.
Is that correct? 100%. One of those teams that you mentioned is going to be disappointed. One of them extremely happy. High ground now being controlled by Alliance, and I kind of want to focus on FaZe because their rotate is going to be very, very tough in the next few moments. Oxygen are making a play now for the track, smoking it off, and I think they want to try and rotate away from where they believe a lot of teams are going to be stacked up. It's Optic Gaming who are shadowing them, but TSM, they're making their move as well behind them, but this is the rotate. This is the moment here for FaZe. They have Fnatic in front of them, but they should be able to eliminate them, and this might be now a clear run for FaZe. They've cut a straight path towards this end zone.
You know what is crazy is that there is a world where Alliance, FaZe, and Oxygen could all get in to the winners bracket. It would mean that J-Lings and 100 Thieves would fall out, but Alliance have lost one. They're involved in this fight here.
They certainly are. Yuki's just trying to anchor for his team, but the pressure is coming in. And now it's down to the long-term duo. Hackis, Yuki, can you win the fight when it matters? The answer is yes. Realize are eliminated, and Alliance live on.
Alliance now surpass J-Lings and 100 Thieves, which guarantees Alliance in the winners bracket into the top 5. So suddenly we're looking at J-Lings and 100 Thieves as TSM looks like they're about to go down as Hal tries to hold on strong as the last remaining player.
Hal's still alive for now, but he's getting chased down, and this is going to be KP secured potentially for Oxygen Esports, and my, hasn't this just got interesting? Optic Gaming eliminated, TSM eliminated, and it's almost as if it was scripted. Our final 3 teams, Alliance, FaZe, and Oxygen.
And I believe all 3 of them should have done enough to get to the winners bracket at this point. They should be pushing J-Lings and 100 Thieves out of the winners bracket spots, but they will not know that. They will still think they need a victory to try and secure this. And of course, admins will always make the final call here. This is only the math that I'm doing, but it looks good for all 3 teams involved in this final circle. You could not write it.
I always like to rely on your maths more than mine. Thank goodness that you're in charge of that. For now, though, what a performance has been from these 3 teams. And look at Snipedown. He is locked into this game. And let me tell you, I've commentated over this guy for a number of years. And when you see that face on Snipedown, he knows that it's time to turn up.
Who can get that final victory to give them that extra confidence boost to be in the winners bracket tomorrow? Because FaZe, on to 99 points. They sit in 20th position. They do surpass J-Lings and 100 Thieves. And that's so tough for both J-Lings and 100 Thieves as Alliance down to 1, but still trying to stay alive.
You can see that Alliance, basically all that FaZe were interested in doing there was just forcing Alliance in, but I think you can see the smile on Hackett's face. All of a sudden, I think he realizes that the job might be done for Alliance. FaZe want to close out here. They have the high ground.
FaZe have got the high ground to work with, a very similar circle to what we saw earlier. It was a very difficult fight when we saw it for FaZe, as they only had 2 players last time they were here, but now they have the full 3.
Alliance eliminated, but I think the job was done early on when they won that contest against Dojo. Now we have a 3v3 to decide who's going to be our final champion of groups. It's Oxygen Esports versus FaZe.
Sounds like more Oxygen fans than FaZe fans, certainly that is for sure, but it's high ground versus low ground, a tale as old as time. I know where I would prefer to be, but there's a lot more involved. It's also who's got the utility, who's got the ultimate. You can see Vayne just waiting for that Rolling Thunder to come through, and that might give them the ability to just push up on this final circle, and he is going to have it very, very shortly, and that might just be the play that Oxygen go for. And when they do get involved in this fight, I mean, a composition like this is very good for 3v3s. You've got reads available to give you the scan, to give you that information, Aiden on the horizon to try and change things with elevation.
Well, we've heard from the Oxygen esports players themselves, right? They believe they're one of the best 3v3 fighting teams out there. They relied on those 3v3 fighting skills to get them into the position they found themselves in just about a month or so ago now, at the Split 2 playoffs. Well, the question is, can they take down the experience? It's almost the youth versus the experience in esports against each other now. FaZe holding strong.
It's crazy. Earlier you said one of these teams' days is going to be ruined, and I didn't think it would be 100 Thieves and Jay Lings, but alas, they will be in the elimination bracket. Now here is that Rolling Thunder we were talking of. This is where they try and now push up and try and gain a little bit of ground. Dark Veil goes down just to cut that map in half, but now the Black Hole is going to be available, but does not get used.
Interesting. FaZe are holding themselves into a pretty strong position at the moment. The Black Hole should come in, but FaZe have stepped back. They've almost baited it in, they've destroyed it, and now the question is, do FaZe have it available? Yes, they do, but Phonyhead's got to get into a position to use this, or maybe he's going to step through the Dark Veil, to do more damage himself, but he will go down. Freg's now left on his own, and Fregs needs to win this for FaZe. He gets one, but the question is, can he clutch? Playing down by the knockdown shields, stepping forward, popping themselves, but can he pop some bodies? No! Oxygen esports, they leave it late here in Birmingham, but boy, what a performance that was, those final 2 games.
Oxygen send themselves to the winners bracket. The victory is massive for them, and they show why they need to be considered genuine contenders at this tournament. It was a slow start, but when they got going, boy, did they show what they meant. They pushed themselves up to about 14th with that victory. It's not even a worry when you look at it in that scheme of things. But FaZe, even though they lost that fight, FaZe still did enough. FaZe will still be in that winners bracket as well, holding down the 20th position. That means the cutoff was 103 points, higher than both Split 1 and Split 2 playoffs.
And that is the standard that is set here at the ALGS Championships. Alliance fans in the crowd as well, they are on their feet because their team did enough as well to get through to that winners bracket. What a story though for so many of these teams. Oxygen esports, I think most importantly, Dan, we have learned so much about. We've been talking about that trajectory, right? We've been talking about how it's been this consistent upward trend. Now we've just learned that they can deal with pressure when it really is turned up.
I think that was the question that was asked up on the desk. Can they deal with the pressure that's kind of fallen on their shoulders after such incredible performance in Split 2 playoffs? And sometimes when your back is against the wall like that, they needed pretty much 2 wins to be able to qualify for the winners bracket, and they did exactly that.
Amazing performance from Oxygen esports, but a lot of credit has to be shown to the 2 teams alongside them in that final fight. FaZe, who just crept their way towards zone. Again, the last 2 games from FaZe, you look at them, and you know, very different ways that they played the game, but both got them enough points, we believe, to get them through to the winners side as well. And for Alliance, I mean, almost knowing that what side of the bracket you're going to is going to be decided by a straight 3v3 contest with the dojo, having just lost 2 back-to-back, to have the ice, to have the nerve to win it when it really matters. Congratulations to them. That is a massive, massive performance.
But then with all winners, unfortunately, there are always going to be on the other side those that go down to the elimination bracket. Commiserations to Jay Lings, who were watching on, 100 Thieves, who were watching on, who were kind of those bubble teams that probably thought they had near enough done enough, but it's an elimination bracket run. Something we thought Alliance were going to have to face. We even had the discussion of, you know what, Alliance, they'll be all right with the elimination bracket, but they said, nah, we're going to do this properly. We're showing what we're made of.
Well, what an end to the day it has been. That's going to do it all for us. Good job, brother. I've really enjoyed that cast, and I'm sure that a lot of people out there certainly enjoyed seeing their teams go through to that winner's side. For now, though, we're going to send it over to the desk to send us home.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I really enjoyed you both, Mark and Dan. You guys had a fantastic cast and a fantastic game as well. Kept it exciting and interesting to the very end. What a showcase. FaZe and Oxygen 3v3 Game 6. Last game of our third series of the day. All fun. And both teams will be playing yet again in our winners finals tomorrow. But before we get to that big moment for Oxygen, we saw the fans, and not just fans. I had a feeling there was a lot of family there, Zephyr, as well. Proud of Oxygen and that team we've been talking about today, finally showing us what they're made of.
And there was never a doubt in my mind, right? I got even the chance to talk to Psycho just yesterday, and he looked at me and he said, we've already got a game plan in mind to handle this one out here.
And you know what? I love that talk about how they made it work. Graceful, walk us through the way they executed what worked there to win that game.
So the biggest thing that I see here in the final circle is that, like you said, they've always had it. You never had a single doubt in your mind. Neither did they. The most important part of fighting when you're in a straight 3v3 is confidence and being proactive. Do you see how they are constantly making them think about the plays? They're not getting played on. They're making plays. They're swinging. They're looking through the walls. They're holding hands. They're doing everything together as a team. And mechanically, they popped off.
I mean, the confidence to even push through that wall, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, you said proactive. I thought maybe the black hole went in a little too early there, but they do recover for it, you know, frankly, off the back of a phenomenal play by Reeds here at the end.
Exactly. Reeds touches it up, and that's perfect.
And this is the way that Reeds has performed ever since we saw him team up in his debut tournament at TwitchCon with Hal and Sweet, notably some pretty good IGLs in their own right. But Reeds was there turning back what I believe was a 37-point win in the final game to win over the $200,000 prize pool that they were offering. Now, similar clutch-like genes showcasing themselves here in Game 6. 21 points for Oxygen, 9 kills. It was close, though. If FaZe had won, they would have gotten close and definitely taken second place. It might have still been another team coming out on top, though, for our overall series. But Alliance, great performance from them. Optic Gaming, a team that I had talked about doing well in this final series. They have performed nicely, too. And, of course, in our back half of our top 20, we're seeing some teams who today maybe, you know, played well, maybe not this game, but I think the likes of Sentinels who have actually really performed. RK taking on the challenge as an IGL. Yet again, he joined us on the desk in Split 2, saying maybe this is a little bit of a litmus test for me as an IGL, and I think he's passed it so far.
Yeah, I mean, they were one of the teams who got the highest point totals out of anyone so far. We even saw Tom Young Kung there, obviously, you know, a roster who have completely retooled themselves for this tournament, essentially, and we're seeing them push through into the winners bracket.
I think APAC North in Split 2 was maybe my most exciting region in terms of stepping up their play. APAC South might be my most exciting region now for what they've done today. But when you take a look at this series, we gotta have a winner. And who is it? Let's reveal who took home our final series of the day. You know it's between a few teams right there. It is Oxygen Esports, who with that final 6 points, 3 points for getting the kills, all the knocks onto FaZe Clan, but then taking the 3 points, going from 9 to 12 points and claiming first place. They tie Optic Gaming and have the largest game as a tiebreaker. Psycho, I love seeing the plushie, but what I want to see, and you know, Zephyr, I'm sure you've seen this as well, I want to see the suit come out very, very soon.
Yeah, break it out. Be the Riddler that you can be.
Is that like a grand final special? He only brings it out.
That might be.
It's like a reward for himself.
But Chad, I think we got to see it. I mean, if you want to see the suit, let us know. I'm sure Psycho has packed it. Hopefully, there were no issues getting that through security. They might have had some questions, but hopefully no issues on that one. Of course, when you take a look at the overall standings, here is how it played out. Like I said, they tied Optic Gaming. This is how close it is. Graceful as we get into that Dark Zero, though, still playing well. Realize also Disguise. Great performance from them in this final series. And soon that will lead us into what it means for our winners finals tomorrow. We are now looking to separate these squads. For those tuning in, for those watching, what does it mean? Well, we've got our top 20 who will have a chance to get themselves a ticket to the match point finals on Sunday. Tomorrow, we'll also have a few teams that are now at the precipice of going home if they do not perform. But after this one, this is how it stands. Any quick surprises there, Graceful, on any of these performances that you've seen, either on the good side or the bad side?
On the bad side, it sticks out for me, obviously, would be Aurora. I was having high hopes for them to wake up and go in hard. On the good side of things, Alliance made it in, Tom Yam Kung made it in, so Joel Cup. Faye slid in. You know, normally you would say somebody slips in on a banana peel. They did a football tackle. They came straight swinging. They got it all.
Konged it
So
in.
happy for them, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic as well. And Genome, just a reaction. This is our winners finals essentially tomorrow. These are the top 20 teams overall in the tournament. They will be in a separate group.
Yeah, look, super excited to see the dojo come in there.
Yes.
Straight from last chance qualifiers into the winners finals and champs. Incredible effort, start a fight. Really happy to see one of those teams come through as well. Regional representation, really fun. Hopefully they can continue that run and make it all the way to Sunday.
Yeah, and obviously South America didn't make it into the championship Sunday moment in our previous split too. Now we have a chance to see them do it. On this second half though, Zephyr, we have set up our elimination bracket round 1. This is not a place you want to be. It's not over, but you now have to start sweating a little bit if games 1 through 3 do not go your way.
Right, and challenging for so many of these teams, especially the ones that fall out right there on the cusp. I'm looking at Jaylings and 100 Thieves, so close off of the precipice of our last series here. Not just them, but a good chunk of our APAC North representatives falling in that mid-20th range, still looking to see how they can start to amp the tempo and find a place in this meta.
Disguised very close to making it as well. Another LCQ team. And remember, for those who think, oh, well, you know, they made it in a last-ditch effort, Furia in our last championships a year ago took second place and $300,000 from the LCQ just off of points. So do not misunderestimate what that can mean in terms of changing the dynamic of how these things play out in terms of the prizing and the championship. Of course, there are certain players who make a little bit more of an impact, Genome, and when you see this list, what stands out to you? Familiar names, but also some young names there. I'm looking at Koifel as well, man. 17 years old, picked up from Sentinels, 34 kills. That's impressive.
I mean, I'm not even remotely surprised about Koifel. Anyone who's been watching this kid come up, he has been dominating everything he has put his controller sticks to so far. He is a phenomenal talent and really excited to see him put up there. I mean, number 1, 3MZ, that's actually the surprise for me, right? Because, you know, he gets the name like the knockdown shield, right? They talk about him being like, you know, Captain China, like hiding behind that. But this time, he's leading from the front with 36 kills, and that's a fantastic sign for DZ, for DF, if they're not relying on Roy and Peter.
I'll never forget a car ride in London with Restia FPS, one of our wonderful co-broadcasters and watch party members that we have here at these tournaments, just for his team, but with another championship familiar face himself. Let's talk.
Right here we have back
play spots and rotate and
family there right
for a while now.
And Reed, these are the guys I'm going to compete to your
after the games.
There, you know, and we got a Tom Brady right here, right next to me. So we were roommates. I know.
You want to set yourself up to be in the best.
Bring some firework.
But comes on and maybe macro, get the time.
Kind of interesting here at the ALG. Tomorrow and for the rest of your year, the end of your journey. But it doesn't have to end, and it is all in the players' hands. From every shot, every rotation, and every final fight, we will see stories be told and stories end, but guess what? We want you there, so tune in tomorrow. We'll see you because the bracket stage begins.
Can't handle with their tap strafing.
Quickly, the push comes in, and drop goes down. Optic are falling first, and Dark Zero win on Storm Point. The Skies go out first.
First game here, he gets one. Boy, what a performance that